So Jude, it is time for CanJam Shanghai once again, and this year I have a challenge for you. Now, at last year's CanJam Shanghai, I discovered a breakfast food called John Bing. I fell in love with it, and as soon as I came back home, I had to find it locally because it is incredible. So this year, I am going to make sure you try some.
I did not try it last year. I will have to, though. We had a great time at CanJam Shanghai, though.
Oh, yeah, we did. Now, this year's CanJam Shanghai is happening June 14th and 15th, 2025, and we are once again returning to the Shanghai Marriott Marquis City Center. I love this venue because as soon as you walk outside of the hotel, there's so much going on. You have like a nice shopping area. However, you have a bunch of restaurants with incredible food. You have some wonderful activities, and the scenery is just stunning. I love the city.
Yeah, I think Shanghai's skyline has to be one of the most beautiful, if not the most beautiful skyline I've ever personally seen.
Yeah, I love waterfronts. It's absolutely stunning. Now, this video is going to be pretty big. We have a lot of gear to get into, so let's pretty much dive right into it. Come join us as we sit back and talk about some of our favorite highlights from CanJam Shanghai 2025. FiiO will be joining us at CanJam Shanghai this year, and they're also one of our CanJam Shanghai event sponsors, so thank you FiiO for helping make CanJam Shanghai possible. Now, when it comes to audio electronics, FiiO seems to cover the full gamut. From DACs and amps to digital audio players, desktop speakers, CD players, Bluetooth speakers, and more. Their CanJam Shanghai exhibit will be absolutely packed with incredible electronics for you to try. So let's take a look at just some of the FiiO models you'll discover at CanJam Shanghai 2025.
This is the FiiO K17, and as you well know, I've fallen in love with this FiiO K17.
Yeah.
So let's talk about what it is. The FiiO K17 is a fully balanced desktop DAC amp. I love that it has a relatively compact footprint because, as you know, I don't really have much room on any of my desks, so that's always nice. Now, the DAC section of the FiiO K17 is built around AKM's flagship AK4191, AK4499EX combo, and there are two of the AK4499EXs in there, so the DAC section is extremely capable on the K17. But the amp section is also very capable.
Yeah.
It's actually a discrete Class AB transistor amplifier circuit. I love that it's a discrete design. I love that it outputs up to 4,000 milliwatts.
Yep.
It has quite a bit of drive. And I also love the fact that it's so flexible in its drive and so quiet in terms of self-noise that I can plug the most sensitive in-ears into it. No self-noise whatsoever. It's what I call, that amp helps it become what I call a reviewer's amp.
Yeah.
In that you can plug anything into it, including hard to drive over ears or, like I said, super sensitive in ears. I love the flexibility of FiiO's desktop components these days. They have so many inputs and outputs.
Oh, yeah.
For example, the USB inputs on this.
Yeah.
Back and front.
Yes, I love seeing USB-C on the front because if I have something like a phone or a laptop that I don't want to get behind the unit and plug it in, I could just sit down, quickly plug it in, get to listening.
Exactly. My main computer is plugged into the USB-C input on the back.
Yeah.
And on the front, if I want to use, like you mentioned, like a tablet or a DAP or my phone and just DAC it really quickly using the K17, it's nice to have that front access. So that's a lovely thing. And then, again, a slew of inputs and outputs. It also has Bluetooth, which we both actually really appreciate.
Yeah, and networking support.
Oh, yeah, networking support. Ethernet, Wi-Fi. And it's dual band, 2.4G, 5G. I do love that it has, for balanced headphone outputs, as well as unbalanced, by the way, but it has 4.4 millimeter and XLR.
Yes, it's nice to see both.
Again, makes it more of a reviewer's amp.
Yeah.
Right? So no matter what you have, you can plug it in. Okay. Now, on HeadFi's forums, FiiO confirmed for somebody who asked if this was the successor of the very popular FiiO K9 Pro, and they said, yes, it is.
Okay, they look nothing alike.
They look nothing alike. And the K9 Pro is immensely popular.
Yeah.
But the K17, and something I love about it, is it has that retro look.
Yes.
It has that retro look, and it's also a retro sort of touchy-feely thing, too, with the knobs.
Yeah.
So, for example, the gain settings that I talked, 5 different gain settings on that amp, from, low to whatever the highest is, like ultra or desktop. I don't remember what they call the highest setting. And it's done with a knob that has such a nice feel. And I like having that instead of going through a menu setting to change gain settings. I love that it's just a knob. And the funny thing about it is the screen also looks kind of retro.
Yeah.
It's kind of this basic looking screen, but that's also just, kind of the style, if you swipe left to right, and it is a touch screen, which may not be obvious when you first look at it, and it comes with a remote, but you can swipe left to right on the touch screen, and it just unveils, like right away, a slew of options.
Yeah.
Right? So anyways, we won't get into that. But one of the options we should mention, 31-band high-precision lossless PEQ, a parametric EQ,
right,
including some presets, which are nice. I actually used the Jazz preset with a headphone that I was driving with it just before we shot this. And I should also mention, as with anything from FiiO these days, especially in terms of their electronics, they use the highest quality components inside.
They do.
And this thing is loaded.
Yeah.
All you have to do is look through those top vents, and you can see the electronics go like right up just underneath the top surface. So I bet you if we open this thing up, it probably just has layers of stuff going on inside.
Yeah.
So the FiiO K17 to me is so easy to fall in love with. I think it's a fantastic successor to the K9 Pro. I love the retro look and feel. It's a very exciting piece. You can see why I've fallen in love with it. It's a can't miss it CanJam. This is the FiiO DM13 portable CD player. It's obvious our industry is making CD players a thing again.
Oh, yeah.
And I am very excited about this. So the way we listen to music today with our streaming and everything, it's almost too easy.
I get you.
And when it's that easy, it can just become quickly a background thing.
Yep.
And with physical media, listening to music is a more dedicated act.
Yeah, you get a sense of occasion when you
like
use
that, Brian.
Yeah.
A sense of occasion. I like that. So it's a more dedicated act to listen to music because you have to cue it up. And frankly, it encourages things like listening to entire albums.
Right.
Not skipping tracks you might otherwise skip streaming.
Yeah, finding the hidden tracks.
Finding hidden tracks.
Yeah.
Yeah, albums have hidden tracks.
Yep.
Sometimes. And I love that about physical media. All right. I also love the DM13 because it's a return to the form of like the original Sony Discmans.
Right.
In that, I'm a lot older than you. The first generation ones were made of metal. They had all metal chassis. And then by the time they got to you, they were all plastic.
Pretty much.
All right. So this has an aluminum alloy chassis. Actually, it's beautifully built. The way the latch feels and everything is just, it's lovely.
Yeah,
all right. Let's talk about what's inside. The FiiO DM13 uses dual CS43198 DACs. So good DACs.
Yeah.
Aluminum alloy body, which I just mentioned, 3.5 millimeter and 4.4 millimeter headphone outs.
Nice to have both.
It is nice to have both. We didn't have balanced outputs on our portable CD players back in the day, and especially from the balanced output, a lot of drive, up to 660 milliwatts into 32 ohms. Optical and coax digital outs, something I did not have on any of my portable disc players back in the day.
Right.
That allows you to use the DM13 as a small form factor CD transport in your desktop rig. Just use the digital outs in your DAC. Bluetooth version available, SBC aptX, aptX HD, and aptX low latency. Electronic skip protection. It is physical media. If you shake it, it can skip, but with electronic skip protection, it doesn't. You can turn it on or off. An LCD display, of course. Dual power supply modes, desktop mode and portable mode. Desktop just means you're drawing from USB power instead of the battery. Supports USB CD ripping. Very cool.
Yes.
Gapless playback. Set favorite tracks.
And I think that's a fun feature.
That is a fun feature. I dig that. 10 hours of runtime, of continuous runtime from its 3,750 milliamp hour, 3.8 volt cobalt lithium battery.
Yeah.
That is not something I think I had that. I don't think I had that kind of playtime for my earliest portable CD players or any of them really.
Mine didn't either, no.
We didn't have lithium batteries
right
back in those days. 5 color options: silver, black, red, white, and white skylight. So white skylight is this one with the see-through top where I think I have to get that. I want to see the CD.
It looks so cool, yeah.
I want to see the CD spinning. Now, let's talk about the sound quality. It sounds like a very high-quality, portable, digital audio player that just happens to be using a CD for music. And, but okay, keep in mind, see that CD spinning? There's a motor spinning this thing at high rate of speed.
Yep.
With super sensitive in-ears, the kind that output like 90 dB SPL with only a few millivolts, you might get some self-noise from it. But it's not, I didn't find it bothersome. With music, I wasn't really hearing it. With medium sensitivity to low sensitivity IEMs, it was quiet. I don't think my oldest CD players or my portable CD players of the old days would fare well with those.
Yeah,
but,
probably
you know,
not.
this is built for this day and age using music format from a past day and age. And I love that the FiiO DM13, again, is just another step in our return to listening to music more dedicatedly. Like you said, listening to music with a sense of occasion.
This is the FiiO M21. It's not the JM21. I'll talk about that here in a moment. This is the M21. It is the entry-level model in FiiO's flagship FiiO family of products, the JM21s in their Jade Audio line. Now the M21, inside of this, it has a quad CS43198 matrix DAC, and this is a fully balanced architecture all the way through. You get 3.5 millimeter and 4.4 millimeter outputs, and for power, you're going to get up to 950 milliwatts when you're running out of that balanced 4.4 millimeter
that's
connection.
Actually quite a bit of drive for such a small.
Yeah, it definitely is. It's also running an 8-core, 6-nanometer Snapdragon 680 processor, so it's reasonably snappy. It has Android 13, has a dual power supply, which I think is very cool because you have a dedicated USB-C input for power, which means you can run desktop mode. Now, for those that know, desktop mode is typically something we see in FiiO's flagship class digital audio players. It's nice to see something like that in something as affordable as this. It's a really, really cool feature.
I agree.
It has a 4.7-inch display, which in my opinion is the right size for a DAP.
Yeah, you like smaller DAPs.
Yeah.
I tend to gravitate toward the larger DAPs,
Yeah.
but you do like them on the smaller side.
You like 6-inch DAPs. I like the 4.5, 4.7-inch range. It's a wonderful size, perfect in the hand and the pocket. It also has a really cool optional cassette-style protective case. It's a very cool retro look. You pop this in there, and it's got a little cassette dial and buttons up top. I think it's really, really
You know,
neat.
as old as I am, I find that actually very cute and charming.
It is.
Yeah.
And that's under $50. Now, speaking of price, I do want to mention that this right around $300. So you're getting a lot of value. But I mentioned that JM21 earlier, and people would think, well, the JM21 is less expensive than the M21, so what really are we getting for differences? So the FiiO M21 compared to the Jade Audio FiiO JM21, they both share the same processor and the same operating system, but the M21 has more memory. So the JM21 has 3 gigabytes of memory. The M21 has 4 gigabytes of memory. There's more DACs inside the M21, so it's a dual DAC design in the JM21. It's a quad DAC design in the M21. And because this is a physically larger unit, you get more battery inside, which means more battery life. And in my opinion, when you can get more battery life at the trade-off of a little thickness, I'm usually going to go for it. It's, especially in a digital audio player when I'm on the road, wonderful to have that battery life. Now, that $300 price point, you might think, I'm going to pair this only with budget-friendly things. No, don't do that. Pair it with everything.
Right.
So I've paired this with high-end, very expensive IEMs, and when you think about the $300 price point, I got to say, I was actually blown away.
I'm not surprised. FiiO's engineering capabilities are incredible. I visited their lab several years ago. They've since updated it, but the engineering capabilities, the test and measurement facilities they had there were incredible.
Yep.
So, yeah, it's an incredible company when it comes to engineering and engineering value into gear.
Yep.
And I think the M21 is just another example of that.
It definitely is. So if you're on budget this CanJam and you're looking for something, or even if you're not on a budget and you just want to see what's out there, the M21, yeah, you got to check this out. Now, as you're well aware, but they don't know yet, I recently moved into a new home. And when you're setting up a house, you know, there's so many boxes and things going on. You don't necessarily want to wear headphones because my girlfriend and I might be calling out for each other, or we might set a headphone down for a second and then forget where they are in the maze of the house. Well, that's where this came in handy because this is the FiiO SA1. It's an active speaker, and they've been fantastic. So first of all, these are only $179. I do love the price tag. It has a 3.5-inch wood fiber woofer that is the same as the woofer found in FiiO's SP3 BT Bluetooth speaker. And it has, as they say, bass extension all the way down to 65 hertz. It has a 3/4-inch aluminum magnesium alloy tweeter, and those are connected with an electronic two-way crossover. You'll get for power up to 20 watts of power out of the woofer and 5 watts of power out of the tweeter. For something this small, they do get deceptively loud, and they also have a very nice tonal balance to them. I want to mention also, you'll see on the side there's a glowing little dial on there. So that is your input and volume adjustment, but below that is a bass dial. And guess what? I did not keep this at the lowest level of bass. Actually, I wound up kind of right around the middle. It's actually a really good sounding system for $179. I love them.
Brian, you turned up the bass.
I did turn up the bass a little bit, believe it or not.
We're so proud of you.
I know you are. So inputs, you've got a number of digital inputs. You've got USB Type-C, optical, coax, and of course Bluetooth. You have analog inputs. You have stereo RCA and 3.5 millimeter for connectivity, so you have a lot of options there. The Bluetooth is Bluetooth 5.4, so that supports SBC, AAC, and LDAC. And one of the coolest features, I think, is that it does have a subwoofer output on it. So if you happen to have an active subwoofer you want to connect to it, you can do that and go below that 65 hertz threshold. It has a built-in phono pre, so anybody that's hooking up a record player to it, you're just going to have fun straight out of the box.
That's actually pretty groovy.
It is.
Yeah.
It's compatible with FiiO's app, which means you also get access to their 31-band lossless parametric EQ, which I think is very cool, and there are some built-in presets for that as well. I've just mainly been using the bass dial to toggle it in as we need it. It has a 12 millimeter thick, high density MDF cabinet. I love the retro styling they went with for this because it reminds me of a number of speakers that I've seen in the past that just kind of, you know, live rent free in my brain because I'm constantly thinking about them. Well, it has that similar kind of aesthetic. I mentioned the physical controls already. It also below the two dials has a power button, so you can turn it on and off from the unit. Now, one thing about power for active monitors, I tend not to want to have them actively turn off on their own after a set period of time. It does have an automatic standby mode, but you can disable it in the app if you're like me and you don't want that. Again, $179. FiiO delivers a lot of value in very, very affordable packages. This is another one, and at CanJam, I mean, you have to hear them.
Yeah, their engineering is superb. I haven't even had much of a chance to listen to these because you've had them.
They've been in my house the whole time, yeah.
And I'm also just excited that you discovered the bass knob actually turns clockwise.
Yeah. That's a weird-looking headphone.
I knew he was going to say so. It's obviously not a headphone, guys. It's a Bluetooth speaker, as you can tell. So it's a very small form factor Bluetooth speaker. It's the SnowSky Anywhere. Yeah. SnowSky is a sub-brand of FiiO. When this arrived, wasn't sure what to expect.
Yeah.
I should say it's like around $30, which I didn't know when I first heard it. Mm-hmm. So when I first heard it, I will say this, completely exceeded my expectations for the form factor and size.
Yep.
When I saw the price, when we looked it up, I was completely shocked.
Yeah.
So fantastic. Let's talk about what it is again. It's obviously a very portable Bluetooth speaker. Mm-hmm. It has Bluetooth 5.4.
Yeah, which is actually pretty rare and something this affordable.
I found that very surprising, yes. Yeah. With just 2 hours of charging, you get 21 hours of battery life.
Yeah, that pretty much covers you for most events.
Yes, I agree. IPX6 water resistance, which covers you for just about any activity because that's a lot of splash resistance and rain resistance. So that's nice too.
Yep.
You don't have to worry about it that way. Auracast wireless technology supports wireless stereo, so I'm guessing you could do a stereo pair with these.
Which is cool, yeah.
That is very cool. We only have the one, so I haven't been able to test that. But even the one, which I'll get to in a minute, sounded, I think, fantastic for what it is and for the price. Mm-hmm. All right. There's a magnetic bottom.
Yeah.
Funny story about that. Before we shot this segment, we were looking for it. We couldn't find it anywhere. I forgot I'd stuck it to the side of our acoustic and vibration isolation chamber for headphone measurements because it's made of a metal that this will stick to. And that's where we found it. So took some looking, but it's nice that you can do that actually because it's convenient. Like if you're working on things, you can stick it anywhere that will stick with the magnet. All right. The sound quality.
Yes.
Took it to a party, family party, literally just yesterday. Wanted to see what everybody would think.
Yeah.
Put it up against a wall to get some reinforcement.
Yeah, that definitely helps a lot.
It did. And so everybody was loving this thing. And we only have, again, the one, so we didn't even do a stereo pair. And the tonality is richer than I'd expect for the form factor.
Yeah.
Again, given the size, you're not going to get deep bass.
Right.
Not going to surprise you. But it's a richer tonality for the size. Now, of course, it's not going to, power a giant party.
No.
But it did a family room, a reasonably sized family room, just to get some music in there very nicely. I imagine a stereo pair would be even more impressive. At CanJam, make sure to audition the SnowSky Anywhere. If you can do a stereo pair audition, do it. But don't turn it up too loud. It's a CanJam.
Yeah.
But do audition the SnowSky Anywhere. I totally dig these, and we need another one. HBK, Honegger Brüel & Kjær, will be exhibiting at CanJam Shanghai. These days, HBK is probably best known in our industry and in the audio test and measurement world for their Brüel & Kjær Type 5128 head and torso simulator, like this guy. HBK will have the 5128 at their exhibit at CanJam Shanghai. The 5128 far surpasses the nearly 45-year-old 711 hearing simulator standard, and it is the most human-like hearing simulator available. So to all of you CanJam Shanghai exhibitors, if you do not already have a 5128 in your labs, make sure to stop by HBK's exhibit to measure your headphones and IEMs, as they will be doing measurements at the show. Of course, even HeadFi community members curious about how their headphones and IEMs will measure on a 5128 will also be able to have them measured at HBK's exhibit.
So on the table right now is the Goldenwave HIFIMAN GA10. It is a desktop tube amplifier, and the fact that tubes are involved explains why I really haven't seen this around the office, because you stole this pretty much the second it came in.
Yeah. Like I said a zillion times in other videos, I am a big tube amp enthusiast. I have been since I was, Well, since a kid. I mean, like since as long as I've been an audiophile. Now, unlike some of the members of our community who seem to have limitless budgets for like the highest end tube amps, and I'm sure those guys are shopping very carefully for the best value for their high end buck.
Right.
I don't tend to shop in that range. It's not usually my budget range. So I'm looking for more affordable stuff, more reasonably priced stuff that performs at a really high level. The Goldenwave HIFIMAN GA10 absolutely fits the bill. We'll get to the sound signature in a second. Let's talk about what it is. Like you said, it's a desktop tube amp, obviously. Inside, 4 ECC83 or 12AX7 tubes and 4 6P14 or EL84 tubes. They call it a SEP architecture, SEPP architecture, which I believe stands for single-ended push-pull architecture.
I believe so.
Inputs, XLR and stereo RCA. Headphone outputs, 4-pin XLR and 4.4 millimeter, which is nice. And also, of course, 6.35 millimeter or quarter-inch. Power.
Yeah.
It's a tube amp. So high impedance headphone enthusiasts are going to be pretty happy because it outputs 3,000 milliwatts into 300 ohms.
Yep.
So rejoice, high impedance headphone fans. But still, even if you have a like a lower impedance headphone, 600 milliwatts into 32 ohms. So it has juice.
Yeah.
I've been able to drive every one of the current HIFIMAN headphones with it without any issue at all. Beautifully driven, like the Aria Unveiled is gorgeous through it. The Susvara Unveiled is gorgeous through it.
Yeah.
I guess if you're going to use like a Susvara first generation, which is pretty power hungry,
right?
You're going to get good sound out of it, but it's probably not going to be the beast you might be looking for. So just keep that in mind. But for all other, I also used it with the Meze Elite a lot.
Yeah.
Another beautiful pairing. Anyway, the headphone outputs impedance switch. There's an impedance switch on the front. It lets the user select the best impedance match. So 32 ohms or under 32 ohms, you'd use low. 32 ohms or over 32 ohms, you'd use high. That's what they're recommending, I believe. Shielded 120-watt transformer, audiophile-grade components, given its HIFIMAN and Goldenwave. No big shocker there. I'm not going to break those parts down right now.
Yeah.
It's larger than we expected it, by the way.
Oh, a lot larger.
So in the pictures, which is what we'd seen first,
Yep.
I think because the volume knob is so huge,
yeah,
we didn't realize that, so it makes the amp look smaller in photos. Nope, the volume knob is pretty huge.
It is.
And the amp is pretty largish, 16 pounds. Keep that in mind if you're shopping for your desk. Now let's talk about the sound signature. Here's in my notes, it says warm and transparent. It's still neutral, harmonically rich with crisp detail, solid bass extension. I love the sound of this amp. It is pretty much everything I want. Now, I'm not a tube roller.
Right.
So whatever the stock tubes are, work beautiful for me because I'm not really a tube roller anymore. I used to be. Whatever the stock tubes are going to be are probably what I'm going to be listening to, and I love the way it sounds with those tubes. I've already said what headphones I've used it with so far. Beautifully done. So if you're a tube audio enthusiast especially, make sure to audition the GA10 at CanJam. And if you're just curious about what a great tube amp sounds like for a reasonable price, make sure to audition the GA10. It's probably safe to say I am older than the average headfire.
Yeah, that's pretty safe to say.
I knew you were going to agree very enthusiastically and way too quickly. But it's true. It's true. I'm older than the average headfire, and that means I'm old enough to remember the more the experience of listening to music the old way.
Right.
A more experiential way, which was going to the record store, picking albums, with me, vinyl.
Yeah, for me, cassettes and CDs.
There you go. And that, of course, cassettes and CDs for me as well later. And today we don't do that.
No, because back in the day, I would have enough money for one album. You go to the store and then you're thinking, I have 3 or 4 I want to choose from, but you have to choose the one that you're taking home that
Right.
week.
Yeah, exactly. Because I had a budget for maybe 1 or 2 albums when I was young. And so that's just something that I think a lot of young people can't understand today because everything is at their fingertips now.
Right.
But it made you cherish the music in some ways even more. Like you gave thought. Anyway, this is my way of introducing a product that I am so incredibly excited about that I frankly didn't realize how excited about it I would be. And it's the DUNU Concept R. R stands for retro. It is, as you can see on the table, a portable CD player.
Right.
And I call it more of a transportable CD player. But it's such a beautiful piece of kit. When it arrived, I went downstairs where my CD collection is. I have a pretty big CD collection. And I was so excited to revisit every one of these albums because, well, not all of them. There's a lot of them there. But a lot of these albums, again, every one of them, though, in the collection that I gave thought to.
Yeah.
That meant something to me and that means something to me. Brought a handful of them up, queued them up. I'm loving the Concept R from DUNU. So let's talk about what it is. Again, portable CD player. that has a very retro design.
Yeah, I love the styling on this thing.
I love the styling. It's kind of an amalgam of any number of old components.
Yeah.
It doesn't just look like a portable CD player. It looks like a lot of things could be happening with it.
Right.
And it's also beautifully built. So I've never had a portable CD player built to this level. I mean, this is the chassis is CNC. It's CNC machined aluminum,
right.
Aircraft grade aluminum, aerospace grade aluminum. Retro inspired digital slider for precise volume control, and it feels beautiful.
Yeah.
I love that control. That's a very old style control.
It is.
Intuitive single button track navigation.
Yep.
You know, that's a big deal in the CD days. With a lot of portable CD players, you had to hit sequentially the track you wanted. So that meant if you want to go to track 10, you had to hit it like 10 times.
Yep.
With this, you can just go to track 3, hit 3. There's a keypad for it. Track 9, hit 9. Reference grade tuning tailored for audiophile precision and tonal accuracy. And they achieve this by giving us not just a retro CD player, but giving us what headfires today want and expect from a piece of kit. They accomplish that with an R-to-R DAC, for example.
Right.
And they say it's the world's first fully discrete R-to-R portable CD player. I'm not surprised. 192 meticulously matched resistors in that R-to-R DAC.
Yep. And
you might be wondering why such a complicated R-to-R DAC for CD, which is 16-bit, 44.1 kilohertz. It's because it's also a high-res USB DAC.
Yeah.
So it's also a discrete R-to-R USB DAC, which I think is fantastic. Fully balanced 4-channel differential output for enhanced separation and dynamics, 1.3 watts high power output capable of driving demanding high impedance headphones. I've used IEMs and headphones with it. Drives in beautifully, essentially loaded, no self-noise. Switchable Class A and AB amplification.
Yeah.
So far, I've just kept it in Class A. I'm sure I can find a use case for Class AB, but I've used it almost exclusively in Class A so far. Beautiful sounding player.
Yeah.
Beautiful sounding USB DAC. And it got me re-engaging with a collection that means a great deal to me. I know a lot of people today, a lot of young people, younger than me, are into vinyl. And I think they enjoy that experience.
Right.
CDs, if you haven't gotten into that yet, I'm serious, try it. Because I am enjoying the living daylights out of going through my CD collection again because of the Concept R. What a beautiful piece of kit. For me, it's kind of an important piece of kit because it got me downstairs again, looking through my stuff. And I love it. So at CanJam, Concept R cannot be missed.
So on the table right now, we have DUNU's Model 53 Waldstein, and it's unique in a number of very different ways, and a lot of them quite nice.
Yeah, its name is unique too.
Yeah, the name is definitely unique. Yeah. So DUNU says the Model 53 Waldstein, its design pays homage to Beethoven's Waldstein Piano Sonata No. 21, aiming to replicate its sense of awakening and clarity, so that's why it inherited that name. Now, inside of this is a quad-channel, fully balanced, battery-powered headphone amplifier. We'll talk about that battery in a second here. It's designed in collaboration with NiceHCK Audio, and it is the official headphone for DUNU's full-size headphone, their planar magnetic Arashi. Now, it's their first full-size desktop scale headphone amplifier designed for their first full-size headphone. I think that's a wonderful combination. It's fantastic.
A headphone we both love, by the way.
Oh, we love these two, and they sound phenomenal together.
Yeah, they do indeed.
So that headphone amplifier has 2 gain settings, and in high gain, it'll deliver 1200 milliwatts at 64 ohms when you're running balanced on battery, and it can do up to 300 milliwatts at 600 ohms. So a good amount of oomph into something that's a little more demanding. However, it also has a linear power supply option, and if you have that linear power supply, which we don't currently, if you have it, it can do up to 1,850 milliwatts into 64 ohms and up to 500 milliwatts into 600 ohms. So again, running balanced, it's got a lot of oomph when you got that power supply in there.
Yeah, I would like to get that power supply in at some point because I saw another spec here, 950 milliwatts into 300 ohms.
Yeah.
We have a lot of 300 ohm headphones here that a few in particular that I'd really like to try that with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So its chassis is CNC machined from a single block of aluminum. That's 6063 aluminum alloy. And they have a nice sandblasted surface finish to it. So it has a very elegant, subtle, classy look, and I think it's beautiful.
The whole fit and finish is gorgeous. The switches feel great.
Yes, they do.
The volume knob feels heavy. I love that.
I love that resistance that it has. Now, we were talking about the batteries. I want to mention that the batteries inside of this, there are 6 Sanyo NCR 18650 cells which deliver about 24 hours of continuous playback according to DUNU's measurements, because that's about 88 watt hours of total capacity. And they say that this system ensures stable and pure sound output in various environments such as offices, dorm rooms, living rooms, and bedrooms. And that's why the battery is in there, because it's going to be separating the amplifier circuit from whatever power you're feeding it.
Like from the main circuit.
Exactly.
Right.
So they have that distinction. And then if you have the linear power supply, it takes the battery out of the circuit entirely, and it's running straight from that linear power supply. Now, it also has some phenomenal components in here. I mean, incredible things. So for example, it's got Panasonic signal relays, Nichicon KZ water tank capacitors, additional capacitors from KZ and Elna, Neotech 7-in OCC silver internal wiring.
There's a lot of stuff on that list.
There's so much stuff on that list.
The stuff from Vishay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's crazy. They've paid so much attention to what goes into this to get an incredible sound out of it. I mean, this pairing together, if anybody has the opportunity to try these two together at CanJam, definitely do. And if you don't, absolutely listen to the headphone amplifier with your favorite headphones, because it's incredible. From IEMs to full-size headphones, it can drive pretty much anything.
Yeah, they actually even mentioned specifically in our notes here, high signal-to-noise ratio, exceptional compatibility with IEMs.
Yeah.
In our community, that's very important. Signal-to-noise ratio up to 132 dB A-weighted, so extremely quiet in terms of self-noise. So yeah, though it's made for the Arashi, or with that in mind, like you said, it should drive pretty much anything.
Oh, yeah.
Now, here at HeadFi HQ, it's not surprising that we would have used dongle DACs when they first became a thing many years ago.
No, we started experimenting right away.
Yeah, right away. And that was a long time ago.
It was.
Now dongle DACs back then, there were some good ones.
Yeah, and some that were not so good.
Yeah, definitely some not so good ones.
Yep.
But the good ones were good.
Yeah.
Anyway, we fell out of the dongle DAC scene for years. We kind of lost our excitement with the dongle DACs, and then Questyle brought us roaring back into the dongle DAC scene when they gave us a Questyle M15.
Yep.
We hooked it up to our mobile phones, turned them into high-end DAPs. We plugged in our most sensitive in-ears, zero self-noise, and an exceptional sound quality. We were thrilled. We were back in the dongle DAC game.
Yep.
So this is the Questyle M18i, and they're just doing it again. They're getting us excited about dongle DACs again. This will be at CanJam. And the M18i uses dual ES9219Q DACs, so good DACs inside. Supports up to 32384. Not surprisingly from Questyle, it has a very nice chassis. All their stuff has nice chassis.
Yeah, they have for years.
CNC anodized aluminum alloy. Also not surprising from Questyle, current mode amplification.
Yep.
4 sets of SIP modules. I believe that stands for System and Package Modules, using Questyle's current mode amplification. 4.4 millimeter and 3.5 millimeter outputs. Built-in microphone. I'm going to get to that in a minute. Fully laminated OLED display. It tells you pretty much everything you need to know.
It's a nice clear display too.
It's actually a very nice clear display, yes.
Yeah.
3 modes with a switch that has 3 positions. PC mode allows for simultaneous charging and audio playback over USB.
Yeah, which is actually not something you'll find in every dongle DAC.
No, and another thing that's inherent in that very description is that it has a battery.
Yes.
So it has its own battery, something also not in every dongle DAC. So I love that you can charge it while listening in PC mode. Bluetooth mode, which is actually the mode I've been using most with it.
Yeah, I've seen it.
Bluetooth 5.4.
Yeah.
AAC, SBC, aptX, aptX HD, aptX Adaptive, LDAC, LE Audio. I've been using LDAC with my Android phone. Phenomenal sound quality, and something I'm also very excited about. I've noticed this about a lot of later generation LDAC-enabled products. A pretty rock-solid connection.
Yeah.
In the earliest days of LDAC, it could be very touchy.
Yep.
Like, if I use it in this position, I get a good connection, and then with this one, it's rock-solid.
Yep.
I totally dig that. Mobile and phone mode. Does not draw power from the phone, because, again, it has its own battery. Features noise reduction technology. Qualcomm's 8th generation clear voice capture. That's to do with the microphone.
Yeah.
So when you're using it with Bluetooth, with your phone, and a call comes in, or you want to make a call, you don't have to take off your high-end IEM or headphone, whatever you're using with it, because of the microphone. And it's actually a very nice microphone.
Yeah, it is.
And it works really well.
Yeah.
So
I can't tell you how many times I've been listening to music and a call comes in. If the microphone on the device I'm using is not good, I'm not going to use it.
yeah,
It has a clear, wonderful microphone.
it actually does. It is usable, and it's only $399.
Yeah.
So as dongle DACs go, it's a beautiful performer. I want to talk about the sound quality very quickly because I've used it with, again, very sensitive IEMs, my most sensitive IEMs, the kind that I'll put 90 dB at 4 millivolts, right? And no self-noise. I've used it with several high-end over-ear headphones.
Yeah.
And just beautiful tonality. This is a wonderful dongle DAC. The Questyle M18i is definitely something you don't want to miss at CanJam.
So Jude, I don't even think you've seen the Fosi Audio K7.
No, quite literally. I think this is my first time seeing it.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I stole that right away. So it's a gaming DAC amp, and it will be at CanJam. Now, I do like what's going on with this. There's a lot of really cool stuff inside and some really cool features. So let's dive in real fast. The Fosi Audio K7 has AKM's AK4493 SEQ DAC inside, and that is paired with a custom designed balanced headphone circuit, which delivers 2100 milliwatts at 32 ohms via the balanced 4.4 millimeter output on the front, or 600 milliwatts at 32 ohms via the 3.5 millimeter output. It supports headphones with an impedance range from 16 to 300 ohms, so a wide range of headphones are compatible with it. Generous amounts of digital inputs. It's got USB, optical, coax, and Bluetooth 5.0, and that supports SBC, AAC, aptX, aptX HD, and aptX LL. You'll also notice that because it's a gaming DAC amp, it does have a microphone input, and this is compatible for the mic system with PC, PS5, PS5 Pro, Nintendo Switch, and it has a noise reduction muting circuit built into it as well. It has stereo RCA outputs on the rear, so if you wanted to pair this to a dedicated amplifier for, say, like an electrostatic system, or if you wanted to run to like active monitors or whatever, you have that option as well, which is very nice. I do like the chassis quite a bit. It's a CNC aluminum alloy chassis, and it has a lovely sandblasted finish. I love matte finishes, and it looks very nice to my eyes. Size-wise, too, this fits perfectly on my little tiny postage stamp of a desk at home. It's just the right size for me. It does have dual volume control knobs up top, and it has shortcut buttons. Now, I want to talk about some of the features that you can control with these buttons. For example, it has a built-in EQ system that I think is very intuitive and easy to use. You have plus or minus on bass, you have plus or minus on treble, which I find comes in handy if you're using it as a gaming amp for games where you want more specific areas of focus. So in a game that's single player and I want explosions, I might boost the bass a little bit. If it's more competitive and I want to potentially get a little competitive edge, boost the treble, kind of get, clearer footsteps or bullet sounds, that sort of stuff. And it has a quick bypass mode. So if you're at the desk and you're listening, for a game, you have it in one mode. The second you want to switch to music, just hit that bypass, switches right over. All in all, it's a very well thought out system. And I think, once we're done filming this, I'm taking it back home and putting it on my desk again.
And I probably still won't see it.
Yeah, exactly. The list of incredible DACs, amps, DAPs, and accessories available to audition at CanJam Shanghai doesn't stop there. AYS Audio will be showing a variety of amplifiers, including the SAEQ Armageddon. Brighton will have the T+A HA200 driving T+A headphones. And for everyone looking for a desktop streamer, don't miss the Eversolo Play and Luxon X9 at their exhibit. If tube amps are more your thing, then I'd suggest checking out the Felix Audio Envy, and every system needs cables and interconnects, which you'll find in spades at the Harmonic Technology exhibit. Max Digital will be showing off the full suite of electronics from Chord Electronics, including the Alto desktop amplifier, and Squarewave will be your stop to audition the latest DACs from Vice Engineering. HIFIMAN will be joining us at CanJam Shanghai this year, and they're also one of our CanJam Shanghai event sponsors, so thank you HIFIMAN for helping make CanJam Shanghai possible. HIFIMAN has unveiled more classic HIFIMAN headphones. What began with the Susvara unveiled at CanJam Shanghai 2024 has since bloomed into an entire family of unveiled headphones. Of course, open backs aren't all HIFIMAN will have at their exhibit, so let's take a look at the Aria unveiled, the HE1000 unveiled, and the closed back Isvarna. Now here at HeadFi, we are no strangers to HIFIMAN's unveiled family of headphones, and this is the HIFIMAN Aria unveiled. It is the third edition in the unveiled series. Now this came out right around the end of 2024, and it's, in my opinion, a wonderful evolution of what many know as the Aria Organic. But let's talk about what this is. So it's the HIFIMAN Aria unveiled. It's going to have HIFIMAN's unveiled technology quite clearly.
So let's talk about what that is real quick.
Yeah.
So you can see the back of the driver.
Yep.
And you are literally looking at the back of the driver because
straight through.
There's nothing covering it at all.
Right.
Until you're not using it, then you put on the magnetic veils to protect it.
Yeah, of course.
So as far as open back headphones go, any of the unveiled models are open back.
Very open.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I just want to explain that.
Yeah. So when you put the veil on, you're protecting a number of HIFIMAN technologies. For example, you're protecting that nanometer thickness diaphragm. You're protecting the stealth magnets. Obviously, it has the unveiled tech, which HIFIMAN says reduces harmful reflections and refractions from the body. And you can see, because it's so open, the sound has nothing to push back against.
Right,
It
you're
just
not going
comes
to get any
straight
back
up.
reflection.
Exactly. It has a 27 ohm impedance. The weight is reasonably light at 413. It's not the lightest of headphones, but it is very comfortable.
It feels
because
very light.
of the headband. Yeah.
To me, it feels very light.
I think the headband system does a great job distributing that weight.
I agree.
Cable options, you're kind of limited out of the box. You're going to get a stock 6.35 millimeter cable, but because it has dual entry 3.5 millimeter connections, you can use a plethora of aftermarket cables, including a number of them made by HIFIMAN themselves.
Right. I've been using a HIFIMAN 4.4 millimeter terminated cable.
Yeah.
They're available.
Yeah, wonderful to have that many options available. And price-wise, here in the U.S., you're looking at $1449 U.S., which in my opinion kind of puts it at the top, maybe even the very top of overall value in HIFIMAN's headphone family.
I will say, in my opinion, right now, it's the best value HIFIMAN headphone.
Yeah, it's
you can buy
wonderful.
today. Yes.
Yeah. So when you're at CanJam, you want to listen to this because if you know the HIFIMAN Aria Organic, this is an evolution of that sound.
Yeah.
And the Organic had, like the name implies, a very organic. I found it very natural, very harmonious sound overall.
Yeah, we loved it.
Exactly.
Still love it.
Yeah.
And so with the Aria Unveiled, like you're saying, it has a lot of that magic.
It does,
So it has impactful bass for an open back planar.
but not too much for me.
That's, yeah. So I love the bass.
Yep.
And then also it's bell clear all the way through, but it's never strident, harsh. Like, I guess just
No.
like the Organic name and the Aria Organic, this still maintains that.
Yeah.
So it has very natural treble. I've run my sibilance test tracks through it. It never imparts sibilance.
But it has enough sparkle for me. I love the upper end of
Yes,
this.
it's extremely resolving
Yes.
images beautifully, which is probably helped by the unveiled nature
I
of it.
think so.
So this, to me, again, the Aria Unveiled is the best value HIFIMAN headphone I think available today.
Yeah, and since everybody can audition at CanJam, they absolutely have to.
So this is the HIFIMAN HE1000 Unveiled. Yes, the HE1000 has now received the unveiled treatment that started with the Susvara Unveiled.
Yes, it
What
has.
that simply means is there is a magnetic veil, a magnetic cover that you put on when you're not listening to it to protect the back of the driver, because when you take that magnetic veil off, which you must always do when you're going to listen to it, it exposes the back of the driver completely.
Yeah, because it's extremely exposed.
Extremely exposed.
Yeah.
And this would make it the second fully open back design planar magnetic headphone from HIFIMAN.
Yeah, fully open back.
That's the key word, is fully. And as with the Susvara Unveiled, it's designed to eliminate the negative effects of sound wave reflections. Now, there's something about that unveiled concept that definitely seems to be working,
I agree.
because there are some consistent changes between this and the original HE1000s and the Susvara Unveiled and the original Susvara.
Right.
Let me explain. So when I first heard the original HE1000, because there have been a few different models of it.
Yeah.
I first heard the original one, I don't even know.
Oh, that was ages ago.
Yeah, a zillion years ago.
Yeah.
I think it was at a CES. And I was completely blown away by it because of its flagship resolution.
Yep.
And I think it was the flagship in the HIFIMAN line until the Susvara was released.
Yeah, and if I'm not mistaken, it was also the first headphone to come out with their nanometer diaphragm.
Yeah, you're not mistaken, actually. You are
Okay.
correct.
Yeah.
So that HE1000 has been a staple in this community ever since the first model was released.
Yeah.
For good reason, for that flagship resolution. This does, though, again, what the Susvara Unveiled did for the Susvara. It improves resolution, but it also, to my ears, has a smoother treble performance than
Yeah.
maybe any other HE1000 I've heard.
Okay.
So it would be the least bright to my ears.
Right.
I haven't measured it, so I can't say I confirmed that with measurements or anything, but to my ears, it sounds smoother, and it has the most balanced signature of any of the HE1000s I've heard, and that's
Yeah.
saying something. So, and yet it's more resolving.
Right.
And that's kind of how I describe the Susvara Unveiled versus the original Susvara.
Yeah, exactly.
So an incredible headphone has become even more incredible. Frankly, it's a lot less expensive than the Susvara Unveiled.
Oh, no
Like
question.
way less expensive.
Yeah.
But I guess that's what we deal with in this industry, right? Is kind of diminishing returns.
Yeah.
So the Susvara Unveiled is unquestionably more resolving.
Mm-hmm.
It is the better headphone objectively. Just it's incredible.
No doubt.
But this comes way closer to it at its price than I would have expected it to.
Yeah.
It's that good.
Mm-hmm.
So this beast of a headphone is the HIFIMAN Isvarna.
Yeah.
The Isvarna was launched at CanJam Dallas 2024, and it was met with a lot of praise. People were having fun with the Isvarna. I will say it. I'm having a tremendous amount of fun with the Isvarna. Let's talk about what it is, because it's a very unique headphone. So it's a closed back, dual driver, hybrid over ear. It uses HIFIMAN's high-end planar magnetic full range drivers. So it uses their nanometer thickness diaphragm and HIFIMAN stealth magnets. So it's one of their higher end planar magnetic drivers. But they couple it with dynamic drivers.
Yep.
So for the dynamic drivers, they cover the lows up to around 300 hertz, I believe. And it's an oval-shaped subwoofer design. So you can see where the drivers are on the back here on the back edge, and they went with oval drivers to get it to fit.
Yeah.
And I don't know why, but when I think of oval drivers, I always think of one of my favorite loudspeakers of all time, which is the NiceHCK, that also used oval woofers. Anyway, just makes me think of those.
Yeah, one of the coolest things about those drivers, I'll say, is actually the angling. So inside, the planar magnetic is in a more conventional place, but the dynamic driver is actually off angle, and they do that to address phase issues. And I gotta say, they did a fantastic job incorporating them, and I think that's such a cool feature of the headphone.
Oh yeah, and yeah, it works really well, and they image beautifully as well, very wide. And let's talk about that sound, by the way. So the sound with these, okay, so if you think of planar magnetic headphones, most of which are open back, they generally have very linear frequency response down through the bass.
Yep.
Very flat. These don't. Because of that subwoofer, they are unabashedly a subwoofered planar magnetic headphone, closed back, by the way, again. Right. And I love that about it. So I tend to listen at low volume levels. So when people take a headphone from me, they usually end up turning up the volume.
Sure.
And if you're familiar with equal loudness contours, or what people call the Fletcher-Munson curves, that's the older version, then you'll understand why. So at lower volume levels, it doesn't really sound as bass emphasized.
Right.
But when you turn it up, it is a bass emphasized headphone, unquestionably, unabashedly, right? But it's still beautifully done. I enjoy the heck out of these because now you have, again, a high-end HIFIMAN planar magnetic headphone. And at the price, it's like $2,900 US.
Yeah.
This is one of their higher-end planar headphones. But with the fun and slam and physicality, that palpability of those subwoofers. So I really enjoy these, and I definitely enjoy them, especially when I'm listening at lower listening levels, to have that presence still in place with the resolution of the planar drivers. Fantastic. And again, they image beautifully. So this is a can't miss at CanJam just because there's nothing else like them.
Where can you find the latest releases from Dan Clark Audio, Warwick Acoustics, and others? At Max Digital's CanJam Shanghai exhibit. Now, I want to make sure you're aware Max Digital will, of course, have an exhibit on the main CanJam show floor, but they'll also have a quieter listening environment just down the hall from the main exhibit area. So, before you check out both locations, let's take a look at the Dan Clark Audio Noir X and Noir XO, as well as the Warwick Acoustics Bravura. In November of 2024, Dan Clark Audio released this headphone right here. This is the Dan Clark Audio Noir X. Now, the Noir X is the evolution. A lot of people know the name, the Aeon 2 family. This is the evolution of that platform, and it surprised us and a lot of the community, as you know, when it came out, because it offers incredible value. So Dan Clark Audio, they tend to release new features and technologies in their flagship products, and it's always exciting when they bring it to more affordable ones. Well, this is highly packed with a lot of that technology. So for example, inside it has their AMTS or acoustic metamaterial tuning system. It has a new driver system. It has the collapsible headband. It has the self-tensioning headband. It has the lovely memory metal up top. And I think they're beautiful Gorilla Glass. I think that's Gorilla Glass cups.
It is, I think it
on
is,
the side.
yeah.
And it sounds phenomenal. And in the US, it's $9.99. It's very, very good.
I think it's actually one of their biggest hits sales-wise. And
I'm not surprised.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me at all. Like you said, the value's so strong. You mentioned the driver improvement. I'm going to get to that when I talk about this one.
Yeah.
But I do want to say about the Noir X, which I think some people will find very interesting. It tracks the Harman target very closely.
Yes, it does. And a lot of people want Harman voicing these days.
Yeah, and or just curious, what does a Harman targeted headphone sound like?
Yep.
Well, listen to the Noir X, and you will hear what a Harman targeted headphone sounds like. It matches it very tight.
Yes.
Also, as a closed back headphone goes, it's extremely resolving. And as Dan Clark Audio does with just about every closed back headphone I think they've ever done, it sounds almost open back in terms of its imaging for a closed back.
Right.
So wonderful headphone. Not surprised it's been the hit that it's been, but now I want to talk about its actual open back sibling.
Yeah.
So this is the Dan Clark Audio Noir XO. I want to say, first of all, we did a whole video about these, including an interview with Dan Clark, a review, measurements, the whole bit. So make sure to check that out on our channel. But I still want to talk about them briefly here for the CanJam preview. The Dan Clark Audio Noir XO, again, is the open back counterpart to the Noir X. I believe they use the same driver platform.
I believe so.
It's improved, like you said earlier, over the Aeon 2.
Yeah.
Platform with the drivers are more rigid, lower distortion with tighter unit-to-unit consistency. Also, Both have improved ear pads. There's an Alcantara synthetic suede, super comfortable on the face side.
Very.
So I find these to be exceedingly comfortable.
Yeah.
Now, I want to also say now regarding the sound, like the Noir X, the Noir XO, which is open back, matches the Harman Target very tight as well. In fact, both of these headphones measure almost identically.
Yeah.
But they don't sound exactly the same.
Right.
That's a whole nother topic, which I won't get into now, but they don't sound exactly the same, even though they measure within just like dBs of each other. And the Noir XO is what I prefer. If I had to pick between one or the other, just in terms of sound signature, I find these to be just a hair richer sounding, even though they measure almost identically. And being that they are actually open back, they do actually image even wider than the Noir X's.
Right.
And that's actually saying something, by the way, going back to that Harman Target, to achieve that bass lift that they get from the really clean mids with an open back isn't easy. As they say, it's bass response similar to a closed back headphone.
Yeah.
Not easy to do with an open back. So wonderful headphones. This is $1,299, so it's a little more expensive than that one, which is $999. So the XO is a little more expensive, but still at their prices, I find them to be flagship class performance headphones, and they're Dan Clark Audio's, I think, among their most affordable headphones. This is the Warwick Acoustics Bravura.
Yeah.
This is an electrostatic headphone and part of an electrostatic headphone system. I will explain that in just a minute. So the Bravura, I love this headphone, by the way. I think this is probably right up your alley, too.
That is.
So this is the successor to a model that was released many years ago now called the Sonoma Model 1. Now, the Sonoma Model 1 was a good headphone.
Yeah.
It was a good first effort. And that was also, of course, an electrostatic headphone. And that one I found to be on the bright, lean side. I also felt that its headband was a bit uncomfortable. It had very high caliper pressure on my fat head.
Right.
All right. So this one, though, is a lot more comfortable. So let's start with that. That you can see the headband, if you've ever seen the Model 1, this is quite an evolution just on the headband design.
Oh, yeah.
Way more comfortable. But even more importantly was whatever they did to the driver makes this a much better sounding headphone.
Yeah.
I don't even know what they did specifically, but it's substantially better. So let's talk about that driver, because it's still the same driver technology that they innovated for the development of the Model 1. But again, clearly they've evolved it. That driver is called HPEL, High Precision Electrostatic Laminate Transducers. And unlike conventional transducers, the HPEL, according to them, uses a laminated film that is just 15 microns thick, and the film is affixed to a cell structure and machine tensioned with extreme accuracy to create small sound-producing drum skins. And then their software fine-tunes each drum skin for optimal resonant frequencies. And then, to ensure that it doesn't bend and to maintain a strong structure, they encase the driver in a super rigid polycarbonate cassette. So again, this uses HPEL still, but whatever they did with all of that I was just talking about in the Bravura is much better done than with the Model 1. So this, I would say, okay, they say it's voiced with studios and professional work in mind. Can you hear that?
Oh, yeah.
I can too. So I think this, again, would be right up your alley. I would say it's in the range of neutrality, much more refined sounding for sure than the Model 1. This is a better headphone. So if you've heard the Model 1 at any of the shows, don't assume anything about the Bravura from that. Okay. So I mentioned that it's an electrostatic headphone system. That's because the Bravura comes as a system with the Sonoma M1 DAC amp that uses 32-bit ESS Saber DACs in dual mono design, 32-bit multi-channel ADC with balanced input buffers because the inputs are all ADC'd, 64-bit fixed point digital signal processing, Class A amplifier. Not everybody wants to work hard to assemble a system.
No, some just want a turnkey solution.
And that's what this is. It's a turnkey electrostatic headphone system I think it's fantastic. So at CanJam, when you have a chance to listen to the Warwick Acoustics Bravura, do not miss it. What a wonderful electrostatic headphone system.
The HEDD Audio Headphone 2 GT gets a lot of love on the HeadFi forums, and at CanJam Shanghai 2025, you can hear why for yourself at 83 dB Audio's exhibit. But before the CanJam doors officially open, let us give you just a sample of the Headphone 2 GT's incredible presentation. Now, HEDD Audio, HEDD Audio, they are no strangers to HeadFi and CanJam. We've seen them at a number of shows. And if you look back at CanJam London 2023, that's where they launched the second generation of their headphone, which is their Air Motion Transformer headphone model. Well, the Headphone 2, that came out at CanJam London 2023, and they had a queue. all weekend long, constantly in front of their table. CanJam London, that kind of got a repeat at CanJam SoCal 2024 when they released the Headphone 2 GT. Now, you've probably heard the term GT before, Gran Turismo or Grand Touring. It's, to me, that invokes the feel of comfort and relaxation and distance driving in a vehicle. And they were getting a lot of feedback from headfires and non-headfires alike that the Headphone 2, which is more of a studio headphone, isn't really something that they would listen to for long periods of time. They wanted something a little more mid-range presence, a little more low end, something a little more comfortable. So they said, okay, let's take that feedback, go back, make some tweaks. That came out with the Headphone 2 GT. Now, at CanJam SoCal 2024, they were at the headphones.com exhibit, and there was a constant line for that headphone. I didn't get to hear it myself because it was just steady all weekend long.
I didn't get to hear it either.
Yeah.
So HEDD is known for their AMT drivers. That's air motion transformer drivers.
Yeah.
Very resolving drivers. Very fast.
Yeah.
Very resolving.
Mm-hmm.
The Headphone 2, that one, I enjoy that headphone immensely.
Yeah, it's wonderful.
But it is quite incisive.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to talk about the description of the GT from HEDD.
Yeah.
The GT adopts the analytical clarity of the 2, adding a warmer sonic signature and premium comfort experience. The new air compliance tuning system creates impactful bass alongside a warmer mid-range and sparkling top end.
And that's such a you sound based on the description.
Yeah, that's a me description.
Yeah.
And you might actually, just based on the description, prefer the original 2.
Given that, I think I'm probably going to lean more towards the 2.
Okay, so the CanJam SoCal 2024 impressions thread seems to bear that out.
That's
From what
true.
I've seen,
Yeah.
it seems to be consistent with what HEDD is describing.
Mm-hmm.
And again, that's something I need to hear. I didn't hear it either at CanJam SoCal 2024. So, I think for both of us now at this CanJam, we have to make sure to hear it.
Yep. So Jude, gaze upon my table and see that it is empty because unfortunately the Audeze LCD S20 did not make it in time for this preview video.
It is actually, it's in the air right now.
Yep.
On the way to HEDFi HQ. Didn't make it in time for the video shoot, but they will have one in time for CanJam Shanghai where
Yes.
you'll be able to hear it. So make sure at CanJam Shanghai to stop and listen to the Audeze LCD S20. Why don't you tell us something about it, because I know you know more about it than I do.
Yeah, I've been reading up on it and I'm intrigued based on what I'm reading. So the Audeze LCD S20 is a closed back headphone, and it is a planar magnetic headphone like you would assume it's Audeze, but it has Audeze's SLAM technology. Now, if I'm not mistaken, the SLAM technology we first saw on the Carbon 2, was that correct?
Yes, the Audeze Carbon 2, and it
Yeah.
worked beautifully with that headphone.
Yes, it did. So Audeze says that SLAM incorporates precisely engineered channels seamlessly integrated into the ring that connects the ear pads to the drivers. Each channel's length, cross-section, and shape are meticulously tuned through advanced simulations, precision in, measurements, and critical listening to achieve the ideal low-frequency response. Now, something else Audeze says is that these have magnetically attached ear pads, and I'm intrigued because I think this is the first time we've seen magnetically attached pads on an Audeze headphone.
I think you're correct, and for me, this is big news, because I love magnetically attached ear pads. They're just so much easier to take off and put back on.
I agree. And speaking about things we love, there's also something else on this that I love from the Audeze MM100. So it has an entry point for the cable on the left and right ear cup. However, it's a single entry cable. So you have options. If your source gear is on the left-hand side or the right-hand side of your desk, you can connect your cable directly into it, pop it into whichever side is more comfortable for you, and I think that's a great setup.
I think so, too.
Yeah.
I also am very excited about the fact that it's only going to be $499 US.
Yeah, that's awesome.
For an Audeze planar magnetic headphone, that's big news.
It definitely is.
And also big news for you is that I believe it's supposed to be designed and voiced specifically for professional use, like studio monitoring.
I read the same thing, and I am definitely interested in hearing it.
Yeah, Brian loves studio monitor headphones because he does a lot of studio work here.
Yep.
And I know you're excited about it. There's going to be a line for the Audeze LCD S20 at CanJam Shanghai. This I'm almost certain of.
Oh, no doubt.
Now, you know I love me some electrostatic headphones.
You do.
Apparently, they make me use very bad grammar as well. I
Yeah.
talk like a caveman. But this is the Audeze Carbon 2.
Mm-hmm.
So very excited about this headphone. It was launched at CanJam SoCal 2024, and it incorporates a technology that Audeze developed for it called SLAM.
Yeah.
Which stands for Symmetric Linear Acoustic Modulator. I'm going to read what Audeze says about it. SLAM is tuned to enhance selected low frequencies while maintaining optimal air pressure distribution. SLAM gives Carbon 2 the most physical, lifelike bass response of any electrostatic headphone. SLAM optimizes air pressure distribution across the driver, allowing Carbon 2 to resolve more fine detail than any headphone in our history for incredibly immersive stereo imaging and soundstage presentation.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's marketing copy, but I will say that's actually fair.
It is.
Now, I want to a little caveat here, because when you hear the word slam and we talk about the bass emphasis or the bass enhancement, it might give the impression that this is like some sort of bass head electrostatic headphone.
Yeah, you may think that until you actually hear it.
Until you hear it, but it's not. This is not a bass head electrostatic headphone. The emphasis is very tastefully done. It's on the kind of the lower part of the lows to my ears.
Right.
And so it just gives it a little bit of physicality and impact that I need for my headphones. I will say also that it seems to do more than just the bass, like it affect the bass. I feel like it affects the whole driver somehow.
Yeah.
Like it allows the diaphragm, which is, it still uses the carbon nanotube embedded driver film, I feel like it allows it to breathe more freely, because the details they seem to be jumping off this headphones diaphragm more than with the original carbon.
Yeah.
And I love that about it. I mean, this is to me a very worthy upgrade. And again, I'm not EQing it I'm not EQing it at all, actually. With the original carbon, I don't remember my exact EQ settings. I think I was taking down the upper mids a bit and then giving it a little bass enhancement. And for this, I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
Now, for those of you not familiar with electrostatic headphones, I'll say it. I think some of the very best headphones ever made in the world are electrostatic. They don't use magnets.
Right.
I'm not going to explain the electrostatic principles right now, but they don't use magnets. There's no traces on the diaphragm. And so in many cases, and I'm sure it's true here, the diaphragm actually has lower mass than the air it's displacing to make the sound. So details can jump right off a very well-designed electrostatic driver. And with this, I feel the Slam seems to be helping it do that even more versus, say, the original carbon. Fantastic headphone. I am an electrostatic headphone enthusiast. And so if you can't tell, I'm quite joyous about the Audeze Carbon 2. This is a can't miss at CanJam. Did I tell you about the very, very first time I heard about the Meze Audio Poet?
No.
Okay, so I get a chat message from Antonio Meze, and it says something simple like, oh, by the way, we're sending you the Poet. And I thought he was referring to that book that they'd sent us for the holidays.
Yep.
They sent us a book for the holidays. They're from Baia Mare, Romania, and it was a lovely book that involved Romania. And Antonio clarifies that he's not talking about the book. He was talking about a headphone that I obviously hadn't heard of at the time, called the Meze Audio Poet. This headphone. Not all surprises are good surprises. The Meze Audio Poet was a fantastic surprise. All right, let's talk about it. The Meze Audio Poet is an open-back planar magnetic headphone. It's priced at $2,000.
Right.
Now, though that is not inexpensive, its performance to my ears is more along the lines of their flagship class stuff.
Yeah.
And so that makes it, at least as far as I can recall, the most accessibly priced headphone they've made so far in that performance range.
Yes.
That's my opinion. It's an open-back planar magnetic headphone. It uses Renaro Isodynamic Hybrid Array MZ6.
And I think that's the first time they've used that specific driver in a headphone.
Now, I think you're right. I have not seen an exploded view of it, so I don't know what makes it different from their other drivers. But they have worked with Renaro Isodynamics to develop their other planar magnetic drivers, going back to their very first planar magnetic drivers. Magnesium chassis.
Yeah.
Absolutely gorgeous headphones. Pretty much all of Meze's headphones are gorgeous. This is no exception. Steel grill.
Lovely grill.
Also beautiful. Titanium alloy headband. I don't remember them ever doing a headband exactly like this before.
Neither do I.
Suede leather headrest, they're referring to the comfort strap. This is a very comfortable headphone. Magnetic pad swapping system.
Yes.
All right, what I'm about to say, I think I can say very confidently. I'm trying to think of every pad swapping system I can think of right now. The magnetic pad swapping system on Meze's headphones is simply the best in the business. Can you think of a pad mounting system you prefer to these?
No, I cannot.
I cannot either. This is funny. 350 grams without ear pads.
Yeah.
Why are you weighing it without ear pads?
I don't know.
Anyways, so if you must know, without ear pads, they're 350 grams. That said, I wear the ear pads. I don't know what it weighs with the ear pads because we didn't weigh it, but it is very comfortable with ear pads. 55 ohms impedance. I find them to be very reasonable to drive.
Yeah.
I've driven them from portable digital audio players to various classes of desktop rigs, and it's always beautiful. And I want to talk about why I'm so excited about the Poet. To me, they're kind of a return to old school Meze, with a new touch. And I mean that with the highest compliments. Now for you, I know you prefer a more neutral sound signature. And so when they went from the Empyrean to the Empyrean 2, you preferred the Empyrean 2, which sounds more like a studio monitor. I preferred the more lush, romantic sound, which I found more unique of the original Empyrean, which they then did away with. This is kind of a return to that, right?
Yeah.
And I'm going from sound memory, not the most reliable thing. But when I listen to these, I'm reminded kind of like the original Empyrean, more romantic, smooth, lush, but still very resolving. Maybe somewhere between the Alcantara pads on the original Empyrean and the leather ones.
Yeah.
Just a beautiful signature. Image is gorgeous. And yeah, anyways, this is a return to form. And for that, I'm very excited. And at $2,000, again, though not inexpensive, that would make them more affordable than the Empyrean's original price, that was many years ago it was released.
Right.
And that, again, to me is a big deal. I think at CanJam, there's going to be a big line to hear the Meze Audio Poet. Now, speaking of Meze Audio, they're going to have another new headphone at CanJam Shanghai called the Meze Audio 105 Silva. I'm excited about this headphone. I had a chance to hear it at Munich High End when it made its debut. I'm sad to report, however, it's running a little late, so we don't have it here yet. It'll be here in a few days, but not in time for us to shoot this video. So we're just going to have to talk about it, tell you about it, and I'll give you my first impressions from having heard it in Munich for a few minutes. All right, it's the Meze Audio 105 Silva. It's a dynamic headphone, and it has on each side a 50-millimeter dynamic driver. That driver has a titanium-coated semi-crystalline polymer torus. That's the surround, I believe. Copper zinc stabilizer. Meze Audio says about this driver, rigidity and strength for a fast transient response and pleasantly textured bass with minimal distortion.
Right.
All right, first impressions that I heard, that's a fair description. Ear cups are made of walnut wood with high-strength polymer.
Yeah, it's a striking look.
Yeah, I should say that too, because all of Meze's headphones are gorgeous. This is no exception. It's beautiful in photos. It's even more beautiful in person. All right. It has a self-adjusting spring steel headband, the same one used on the 105 IR.
Yeah, so anybody that finds that comfortable is going to feel right at home here.
And I think that's pretty much everybody. It's a super comfortable headphone.
Yeah.
They say the 105 Silva includes the technicalities of the 109 Pro combined with the warmth and genre versatility of the 105 IR.
That sounds right up your alley.
Right up my alley. I agree with that assessment, having heard it briefly. All right. They also say the 105 Silva specializes in mid-range presentation for vocals and strings, meaning listeners can enjoy the liveliness and impact of any music without sacrificing the micro details present in well-recorded tracks. All right. So they mentioned the 109 Pro, which I find to be a little on the brighter side of my preference. You love it.
I do.
This is, as they say, kind of right where I want it. I feel like Meze Audio has just gotten so awesome at making dynamic headphones. So for those of you who don't know their history, they started with the dynamic headphone.
Right.
And then they really made their mark with high-end planar magnetic headphones. And then their latest generation of dynamic headphones are fantastic and getting better and better.
Yep.
Even with the dynamic in-ear, the Alba.
Yeah.
Like one of the best values in HeadFi.
Oh, yeah.
This is also going to be a strong value. I don't have the final price. I think I have an idea what the final price will be. And it's going to be an extremely strong value. So I love the way it sounds first impressions wise. I wish we had it here, but we'll have it in a few days. I'm looking forward to hearing it again. Make sure at CanJam Shanghai you go and listen to the Meze Audio 105 Silva. Fantastic headphone. I was just looking at the monitor before we shot this, and I didn't realize until I looked at it this way how big these headphones are.
That's true.
These are large headphones.
They are.
I'll explain why in a second, guys, because I think I can explain that. So this is the FiiO FT7. I'm going to start with my conclusion. These are the best headphones by a margin, in my opinion, that FiiO's ever made.
Oh, hands down.
So you agree?
Yeah.
These are fantastic. They're a planar magnetic headphone, and I guess the reason they're big is because they do use very large planar magnetic drivers.
Right.
So on each side, a 106-millimeter full-size planar driver, using gold plus silver precious metal multi-layer coating technology that's patent pending. I don't know exactly what they're patenting, but it's patent pending for improved sound quality and durability. As for the diaphragm, 1 micron ultra thin film diaphragm.
Right.
That's very thin. It does sound very responsive, very resolving.
Yeah, it does.
Very fast. Uniform and even magnetic field design with 18 high-performance N52 neodymium magnets on each side.
And those make it a little hefty.
A little. So they're 427 grams,
Right.
which really isn't that heavy. And they're also a very large headphone.
They are.
So it distributes the weight beautifully. The headband is well designed. The comfort strap distributes it beautifully. All right. The zebra wood grill is nice.
It is
So
beautiful.
it has a zebra wood grill. Yeah, I find it can be kind of both old school and new.
Yeah, it can.
I mean,
Yeah,
maybe the new school is the carbon fiber.
definitely helps.
So there's a lot of carbon fiber on it. I think it's a lovely headphone.
Yeah.
Lambskin and suede ear pads.
Very comfortable.
Yes, that might help with that weight distribution. Liquid nitrogen frozen single crystal copper cable.
That is a nice cable.
It is a nice cable. I like the plugs on it too.
I do too.
Custom detailed linen earphone storage case.
Always nice to have a case included.
Yeah, but it's actually also a very nice case.
It is.
All right, anyway, enough with the spec read. Let's talk about sound. So these, to me, the FiiO FT7 is squarely in my range of neutrality.
100%.
I find this a very neutral sounding headphone.
Yep.
And I mean that in a good way, not a boring way. It's also exciting sounding to me.
Yeah.
Because the bass, though not emphasized, is tactile and impactful.
Yes, it is.
And now I'm just speculating. It maybe is a function of that large driver size. Maybe. The imaging is also lovely.
Yes, it is.
I find it to be big imaging. Do you agree?
I do.
And maybe that is also a function of the big diaphragm that's covering your ears. I don't know. The one thing I want to say about these is they're so neutral. I was comparing them to, the Audeze LCDX.
Yeah.
So I love the Audeze LCDX. It's used in a lot of studios.
Yes.
It's one of my neutral references, even though I think some people will debate its neutrality. It's probably on the smoother side of my neutral range, but I can't be that wrong. A lot of studios use it.
Yeah.
This is even more neutral. The FiiO FT7 is even more neutral.
Right.
Because it has more going on with the upper mids, like more energy in the upper mids and treble. So I find it maybe a more articulate tuning.
Yes.
But never harsh.
Right.
Also, when I turn it up loud, you should not turn it up loud, guys. Spare your hearing. But when I do turn it up loud, it never loses its composure. So I haven't measured it yet, but I'm going to guess the distortion on it is very low. They sound technically capable.
Yes.
Like very technically capable, well-crafted headphones.
And it was designed by FiiO.
And it was designed by FiiO. But even then, they're still by a margin the best that FiiO's made to my ears. And so at CanJam, no matter what price point you're shopping in for over-ear headphones, make sure to audition the FT7. I think they're absolutely fantastic.
Oh, they're wonderful.
This is the Snow Sky Anytime. Snow Sky being a sub-brand of FiiO, and the Snow Sky Anytime is an on-ear headphone, a super oral headphone. When we were lifting them out of the box, we were kind of like, uh-oh.
Yeah.
Because on-ear headphones for both of us have usually been uncomfortable.
Yeah, I only had a few models that I actually liked for the comfort.
Yes.
Yeah.
These, however, shocked us. They are extremely comfortable.
Oh, yeah.
Like, they have very low caliper pressure.
Yeah.
On your narrow head, you found them comfortable. On my wide head, I found them comfortable.
Yep.
It's helped along big time. We were talking about this before we shot this with these pads.
Oh, yeah, those are definitely adding a lot of comfort.
Super plush.
Yeah.
I can wear these for hours, which
I
is a
can
good
too.
thing.
Yeah.
Because you get a lot of battery life, which we'll get to in a second. So the Snow Sky Anytime is an on-ear headphone, as we said. 40-millimeter driver per side, 140-millimeter driver per side. I'm assuming dynamic.
I think so.
Bluetooth 5.4.
Yeah, that's nice to have.
Very nice to have. Active noise cancellation.
So appreciated.
Also appreciated when you need it. 58 hours of battery life.
I love that.
Yes, a 500 milliamp hour battery. You get around 35 hours with ANC. So tons of battery life, which is nice because they are so comfortable. I can wear these for hours. Supports something they call game mode with latency under 60 milliseconds.
Yeah, that's really nice for gaming and also I think for movies or TV shows on the go because then you're going to get a closer sync between the audio and what's happening on screen.
Good deal. 155 grams.
Yep.
So they're very lightweight. Contributes to that comfort. Retro Y2K style, they say.
Yeah, I think the year 2000 might have been the last time I was buying on-ear headphones.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
I think they look cool for what they are, though.
Yeah.
And between $45 and $55, we were looking for the price online. So we'll say under $60, so very affordable.
Right.
But here's what I want to say about this. Not only the comfort shocked us, but the sound.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to say this from the mids through the treble. I'm going to call them actually pretty balanced.
They are in that region. Yep.
The bass is emphasized, though.
It is.
Physical, even.
Yeah.
So, which I didn't expect from such small headphones.
No, exactly.
So if there's low bass hit, you're going to feel it.
You will.
I was actually wondering before we saw the specs if there was a tactile driver in here because it can get physical.
Yeah, I can. And it's actually nice to have that emphasis when you're out and about because that helps counteract some of the ambient around you.
Yes, but I don't find them overblown
No.
for the purpose.
Right.
For the form factor. Now, I want to say this. In ANC mode, they don't sound as good.
That's true.
So if you're listening to them at CanJam and you think they don't sound as good as we're describing, I'm going to guess you're in ANC mode on.
Probably.
Just make sure to go ANC mode off, and then you'll know what we're talking about. The Snow Sky Anytime, I think, this is a hit. Now, since Focal released the Focal Batiste, which is their ANC wireless Bluetooth headphone, it has been here at HIFIMAN, and I know you agree with me, our standard for wireless ANC Bluetooth headphones in terms of audiophile sound quality.
Right.
Now, they originally released it in a colorway, what do they call it?
They call that black silver.
Black silver. And then later on, they released the DUNU colorway, which is the sand-colored colorway, which I love.
Yeah.
It's the model I pretty much carry with me everywhere whenever I'm carrying a backpack or a sling. And the latest colorway, I think, is going to excite a lot of people.
Oh, yeah.
Because now there's the Focal Batiste Deep Black.
Yes.
Now, the funny thing is, the original colorway was often referred to as black.
I think most called it black.
Right. But now we have deep black. And I would say this is the one that we're going to think of most when we say black Batiste. All right, so this has what the other Focal Batiste colorways have, other than the different color.
Yep.
In case you're not familiar with the Focal Batiste, we should talk about that. So all use 40mm aluminum magnesium M-shaped dome drivers. They use that aluminum magnesium dome in several. That's the same dome in several of their high-end flagship class wired headphones.
Yeah, quite a few models.
Quite a few models. It has Bluetooth 5.1 with SBC, AAC, aptX, and aptX adaptive, which is very nice.
Yes.
For audiophile wireless headphone enthusiasts.
Yes, it is.
Active noise cancellation, including silent and soft modes, plus transparency or pass-through.
Yeah, I like that you get multiple ANC settings, which is nice to have.
And we actually do use all of those modes. Yep. You can use it wired via 3.5mm, or, and I really like this, via USB-C wired. And when you do that, you're essentially turning it into a high-res DAC amp combo in a headphone.
Yeah, that's what brings out the absolute best.
Yeah, in absolute terms, that should be the best performing mode. I mostly use it in wireless, I mean.
Yes, same here.
And I'm sorry, but even comparing the two, it's kind of splitting hairs.
They're pretty close.
Yeah, all right. So now, over 30 hours of battery life with Bluetooth and active noise canceling enabled. So if you're using the most battery-eating features, you can still expect over 30 hours of battery life.
Yeah.
If you happen to wear it down, there's a fast charge function where you get 5 extra listening hours with 15 minutes of charge.
Yeah, it's enough time to charge while you're eating on a plane.
That's very specific, Brian.
I've done it.
Yeah, so very nice. It could be the difference between finishing your movie with your headphones or not.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, it is the same price, $699. But again, it's deep black. So this is the Focal Batiste Deep Black. Make sure to check it out at CanJam. I love this colorway, and it might steal my affection from the DUNU for a while. Now, we've said before that since the release of the Focal Batiste, which is their Bluetooth noise-canceling on-the-go headphone, that for that type of headphone, it's been our standard here at HIFIMAN.
Right.
And I'm happy and thrilled to report that there is a new standard for me, probably for you too, also by Focal, also a Batiste, but it's the Batiste MG.
Yes.
And as the name might suggest, it uses a solid magnesium dome driver versus aluminum magnesium dome drivers in the original Batiste. It's just a better headphone to me, and I'm so excited about these. They're also more expensive. They're $1,299 US versus $699 US. So this is their shot over the bow of that class of kind of, I guess you'd say, ultra high-end Bluetooth headphones.
Yeah.
And hello, they've done a beautiful job with these. All right, let's talk about them. Focal says that this is the top-of-the-range version of Batiste headphones, and it is.
Yeah.
They're just better. And then the noise canceling is better.
Yes.
So I want to talk about that very quickly. Here's what they say about the noise canceling. They say new digital microphones to optimize ANC, ensuring effective control over ambient noise and improved soundproofing of voices. So I haven't flown with it yet, but I will be flying with it very soon. Doing some testing, early testing here with just different noise stimuli here at HIFIMAN. This does cancel noise better than the original Batiste.
Yeah, and I want to say in my testing, I actually find that the Batiste MG has lower self-noise than the original Batiste does.
Yeah, so in ANC mode with some headphones that have ANC, you'll hear self-noise in the circuit, usually very low level.
Yeah, exactly.
But this is even quieter still
Yep.
than the original Batiste, which is always welcome as well. Did I talk about the tonal balance?
Not yet, no.
Okay. So the tonal balance for me versus like in its pre-equalized, so it's default sound signature.
Yeah.
Versus the original Batiste is richer in tone but more resolving throughout.
Yeah.
Frankly, for me, it's just better.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah, it's phenomenal. And because of that resolution, if I make a small tweak in the EQ, it's phenomenal for me too.
I know where you're doing the EQ. You're probably taking a little bass down.
Yep.
Because it does have a richer tone than the original Batiste, but it is more resolving. I've been leaving it in its default signature, but I'll play more with the EQ, but I'll probably leave it in its default signature. I'm quite happy with that. But the resolution, definitely better.
Yes.
So that's a big deal. All right. It's also more comfortable, as I might have mentioned earlier. It's more comfortable for me.
Me too.
Because they redesigned the headband. There's now memory foam, ear pads, and pads.
Yeah, that's what does it for me, those pads.
Yes, but what does it for me more, this is more of a problem with me because my head's so huge. I have a big noggin. The original Batiste in its largest size setting was simply comfortable.
Okay.
But I could have used a half click out of each side.
I get you.
But I could still wear it for hours. This, on its largest setting, is actually, sometimes I need to click it in one. So I can get a perfect fit with these, like perfect. So they're even more comfortable for me. And I do find I'm not sure if it's new ear pads, but they're more comfortable just on my ears.
Yeah, they are.
So there's a new backlit flame logo. That's
cool.
Just redesigned. I think it looks cool. Magnesium yoke, aluminum bracket, and real leather for the headband. Elegant chestnut finish following the design of the Clear MG. And, okay, I should mention, it also has Bluetooth 5.2 multi-point versus Bluetooth 5.1 multi-point. But all the things that the original, other than the things I've mentioned as differences, it has all of the things that the original Baptiste has, including USB DAC mode, 3.5 millimeter analog, wired mode, and that USB DAC mode is nice, 24/192 support. Yeah, but it's just a better headphone.
Yes.
And it's just more resolving. And it is, I think, going to be both of our new standards for Bluetooth on-the-go ANC headphone, and I can't wait to fly with this.
Yeah, we'll be fighting over that on the next flight. Sennheiser's headphones have become essentials in the HEDD community, and for good reason. At CanJam Shanghai, you'll have the chance to audition many of these reasons for yourself and in multiple locations. At CanJam Shanghai this year, Sennheiser's headphones will be available to audition in a quieter listening environment, in a private room away from the hustle and bustle, but if your time is limited, then keep an eye out because you'll also find Sennheiser's headphones on display in the main CanJam exhibit area. Here are our thoughts on Sennheiser's new HD 505 and HD 550.
So these two Sennheiser headphones have taken the community by storm.
Right.
You're holding the Sennheiser HD 505. I'm holding the Sennheiser HD 550. They were released pretty close to each other, first with the 505, then shortly thereafter the 550. I can see why everybody wants to talk about these, why everybody wants to hear these, because they are, by modern standards of neutrality, probably the most neutral headphones Sennheiser's ever released.
Yeah, probably.
And what I mean is, like, even in the context of the Sennheiser, I think it was the 505s, the HD 505s. They even mentioned, I think, the Harman research, the Harman target.
Yeah.
So you see kind of where they're going. So they have a lot of similarities. Let's talk about what they have in common. So they're both obviously Sennheiser HD 500 series headphones. They're both open back designs. Both have metal mesh ear cup covers. Both use synthetic velour ear pads. Both weigh 237 grams.
Yep.
So again, a lot of similarities. Come similarly packaged as well. Differences though. Price. The HD 505 copper you're holding, $280. The HD 550s I'm holding, $300. Nominal impedance, HD 505s, 120 ohms. These, 150 ohms. All right, now let's talk about the sound. The sound is more, they sound more alike than not, but I find the 550 to be more to my liking. They are both very neutral.
Right.
Both have very extended bass for open backs, but not emphasized bass. But the 550s have a little more bass presence and a little more mid-richness. But when you hear them with some music that doesn't necessarily draw on those differences as much, they sound so much alike.
Yeah.
But when the differences arise, my preference is clearly for the 550. And I think that more people will prefer the 550.
Probably.
Both will be used, I think, very commonly in professional settings eventually, I think.
Yeah.
And then it'll come down to splitting hairs between what the engineer prefers. I still think most will choose the 550. But so to look at the differences, we haven't measured them yet. And I don't like to review measurements, but since Sennheiser put out measurements from their own labs for both models, I thought it would be interesting to do a comparison. So let's put them on the screen. You'll see the HD 550 has a little less upper mid, lower treble energy than the 505 and a little more bass. And you'll also notice that both have, again, excellent bass extension for open back headphones.
Right.
And sometimes when you reduce that upper mid, lower treble energy, it can result in a richer sounding mid band, and that's the case here. And I think that just that little bit of bass advantage that the 550 has, advantage in my direction anyway. Yeah. Combined with that lower upper mid, lower treble energy makes it meaningfully better for me. And I think a lot of people will agree. So I compared it also, the HD 550 to the HD 660 S2, because that's another fairly recent Sennheiser open back headphone that I really, really love.
Yeah.
And I also find neutral in a different way. It's neutral in an HD 600 family way.
Yes.
But not necessarily in a Harman way. I'm torn between, but I think what a lot of people are looking for is this kind of neutrality. This seems to be of greatest interest to those in the community these days. And for that reason, I think people are going to be seeking these out. I think they're going to become classic models over time.
Yep.
Time loves a hero, as Little Feat says. But I think with time, these will become classics, especially the 550. And so at CanJam, check out what I think are the most neutral headphones in a modern sense that Sennheiser's ever made, maybe, and what I think are destined to be classics. This is the DUNU Arashi.
Yeah.
This is the rare headphone that we both have listened to, both love, and that we wouldn't change anything about.
Exactly.
Okay, it's rare that happens because Brian and I have rather divergent tastes. You tend to find what I like rich sounding, I tend to find what you like lean sounding, yet here we are with a headphone that we both totally agree on in its default state.
Oh, yeah.
All right, this is the DUNU Arashi. It's DUNU's first full-size over-ear headphone. It is a planar magnetic headphone. Before I get to the guts of it, I want to talk about the outside of it because it is beautiful.
It really is.
It's beautifully built, first of all. The build quality is beautiful.
Yeah, it's very solid in the hand.
Extremely solid in the hand. And I love the way it looks. Don't know how it shows up on camera, but it is a beautiful headphone. Reminds me of the original Stax Omega.
Yeah, it does.
I feel like it has to be. I haven't asked DUNU, but I bet you it's influenced by that.
Yeah.
And that's a high compliment because it's a beautiful headphone. But to be clear, this is not electrostatic. Again, it's planar magnetic. All right, let's talk about the guts now. It uses something they describe as a multi-layer composite film diaphragm. DUNU mentions damping, rigidity, and elasticity layers. Fine voice coil, very thin, high-quality coil. And they say the fine voice coil significantly enhances micro detail performance and overall dynamics. It has a dual-sided magnetic circuit, and it is quite sensitive, DUNU points out. It is. Even pointing out that Arashi will perform well with many high-end portable players.
Right.
There are other planar magnetic headphones that I'll use with portable players. It's just you don't often see the manufacturers of a full-size planar magnetic headphone specifically pointing that out.
Exactly.
26 ohms, 500 grams, so reasonable weight. All right, let's talk about how it sounds.
Yeah.
All right, so why do we both love the way this sounds, which doesn't happen often, without EQ. Neither of us EQs this headphone. Solidly neutral is how I described it. You agree?
Yes.
So we haven't measured it, so I don't know exactly how it measures, but we both describe it as solidly neutral. And solid doesn't just mean within my range of neutrality solidly. It also means it has a solidity to its sound.
That's true.
Bass extended, but not emphasized, at least that I hear. I don't hear emphasis,
Right.
But the solidity sometimes maybe gives it that sense that it might be. Again, I don't really know how it measures. So, but that's why I think that we both have landed on this
I think so.
well. All right. And again, I say, I don't know why I repeated myself, but perceived flat tuning, almost dead center of what I'd call dead center neutral. So there you go, a neutral headphone. I could see this being used, for example, in a professional setting.
Oh, absolutely.
As a monitoring headphone, but it's just a beautiful audiophile headphone as well, image as well. But that solidity I really love. And it sounds like a headphone that's taken years to develop. Congratulations, DUNU. So what's the price? Like,
I think $13.99 US.
So $1,400 US. I would say for planar magnetic headphones in that price range, the DUNU Arashi is ultra competitive.
It definitely is. Now, there's a headphone that I believe you and I are in agreement that it is the main, pretty much the only wireless active noise cancellation headphone that we listen to primarily for music. Not where active noise cancellation is the priority, not where microphones are the priority, but music listening, and that's the Focal Batiste. And I'm happy to say, and a bit surprised to say, that it actually has competition from a source we wouldn't expect to see competition from. This is the Noble Audio Focus Apollo, and for those of you that are listening thinking, what? Noble Audio is primarily a company known for in-ear monitors.
Yeah, pretty much. That's all they're known for the most part.
They're known for in-ear monitors, and they've stepped into the full-size headphone field, and I think they did a fantastic job with this. So this is the Noble Audio Focus Apollo. It is an active noise cancellation wireless headphone, and for those of you who are looking for wireless headphones, just know real quick that it has about 80 hours of battery life, 60 with ANC turned on, which is fantastic.
Yes.
But sound-wise, the reason why I think this is going to give it's going to give the Batiste a run for its money is because of the fact that it just sounds fantastic. So the default signature on this, for my ears, to my preferences, it's a little bit thick, a little bit bassy. However, there are some EQ options in the app, and I'll get to that in a little bit.
Yeah, for my tastes, and I tend to like, obviously, more bass emphasis, more bass energy than you do.
Yeah.
But it is a richer tone.
It is.
But I would call it a clean rich.
Yeah, it's definitely clean.
Okay.
So there's also some really cool functions with this. So I mentioned the EQ app, and again, I'll get back to that in a second, but it has Bluetooth 5.3 with multi-point. So if you're using it wirelessly, you have a lot of options available to you as far as devices because that supports LDAC, Snapdragon Sound, AAC aptX, and aptX HD. And with the active noise cancellation mode, it also does have a transparency mode, which allows you to hear and observe some of the world around you through the headset, which is a nice function to have.
Yeah, certainly at the office here.
Exactly.
You should be able to hear me.
I don't want to. And going back to that EQ app, so they have several presets inside the EQ app. I found myself gravitating right away towards one that they called Jazz, and I thought with the Jazz EQ equipped in this headset, it's a fantastic sound.
Yeah, so there is a personalization, like you can customize the EQ. Neither of us has used that yet.
Yes.
So I was looking more just at the presets,
Mhm.
and of all the presets there, for me, it's going to be Jazz. Like you said, it just takes a little bit of thickness out of it, cleans it up a little bit. But for me, that's the one preset I'd use, and I use it either in the default sound setting, which is really nice for me.
Yep.
Or Jazz.
Yeah, absolutely. And it also has a detachable boom microphone, which is really nice for anybody that's on the go. And it has a wired USB-C connectivity for anybody who wants to have a wired connection. Now, with that USB-C, it also has what they call zero latency mode for gaming. So if you're a mobile gamer, the boom microphone paired with your mobile devices, it's going to be nice to have that on the go, especially with, a long battery life. You're not going to have to worry about much. Definitely stop by Noble Audio's exhibit and give this one a listen. Now, before we move on from headphones, there are a couple more companies that I want to let you know will be at CanJam Shanghai this year, one of them with a brand new unannounced model. Longtime headphone veteran Beyerdynamic will be showing their DT770 Pro X alongside the all-new DT990 Pro X, and Brighton will have headphones from T+A, including the popular Solitaire P and Solitaire P SE at their exhibit. Campfire Audio will be joining us at CanJam Shanghai this year, and they're also one of our CanJam Shanghai event sponsors, so thank you Campfire Audio for helping make CanJam Shanghai possible. Now, Campfire Audio has something for everyone, from budget-friendly offerings like the Axion to an IEM developed in collaboration with a rock and roll Hall of Fame legend. So, let's dive straight in. Here are just a few of the IEMs you'll find at Campfire Audio's CanJam Shanghai exhibit.
So this is a Campfire Audio IEM. We'll say the name in a second. But I'm looking at the product notes here in our show notes. And it says from Ken Ball, from Campfire Audio, with this model, I have focused on a modified Harman curve tuning. I mean, how can that not grab one's attention straight away? We'll discuss shortly whether or not I agree with that. But let's talk about what it's called.
Yeah.
This is the Campfire Audio Alien Brain.
Yeah, speaking of grabbing attention.
Yeah.
So the aesthetics of this, it definitely looks like an alien brain, and I have a cool little story. I was at CanJam New York 2025 talking to Ken Ball at the Campfire Audio exhibit, and he let me know that the alien brain, well, for all their IEMs, they have a code name in the studio before it goes to production. And this one, when they were coming up to naming in the production version, they thought, why don't we just call it the code name? And I think it's a fantastic name.
I think so too. I can't say it though without smiling.
Yeah.
So because it does kind of look like an alien brain.
A lot. Yeah.
It's actually a really cool looking piece.
It is.
All right. So let's talk about what it is. The Alien Brain is a dynamic balanced armature hybrid featuring a new 5-driver internal architecture. Dual magnet dynamic driver updated with an all-new full-range 10mm glass PU driver. So that's glass-PU. That's dedicated lower frequency driver. Specifically, it has a glass speaker dome and a polyurethane diaphragm.
Yep.
So that's interesting.
Very unusual.
Yeah. 2 high-quality mid-frequency dedicated balanced armature drivers and 2 high-frequency balanced armatures. So again, a 5-driver hybrid. It's housed in a sleek black PVD full CNC stainless steel shell, designed to look good, of course, but also for durability and resonance control. The faceplate uses a new iridescent dome lid that they describe as playful and striking.
Yeah, it is.
And then they named it a striking, playful name, Alien Brain. Alien Brain's updated accessory bundle features Campfire's new high-quality USB-C DAC dongle with support for up to 32384.
Yep.
Again, Ken said with this model, I've focused on a modified Harman curve tuning. Here's my notes. First of all, I agree.
Yep.
It sounds definitely Harmonish. I describe it as neutral with a slight vocal forwardness. The bass is impactful. Give it some music with low bass, and the foundation is solid. It's like a safe tuning, which I consider like a good Harman tuning, kind of a safe tuning, something a lot of people like.
Right.
This is one of those. This is one of the, I would say this is one of the more neutral Campfire IEMs that I've heard in some time.
Yeah.
And I really enjoy these. So the Alien Brain is fun to look at, fun to talk about, fun to say, and it's a wonderful IEM to listen to. So this is one you want to definitely hear at CanJam. Now, this is the Campfire Audio Axion. Now, I want to clarify something very quickly because there was another model from Campfire Audio called the Axion. It was called the Axion Multiverse 3 First Run Edition. It was a limited edition, and it's sold out. Now, this is now just simply the Campfire Audio Axion. It's a new model. I believe it's supposed to be an ongoing model, and it's only $249.
Yeah.
They've been knocking it out of the park lately with their IEMs, and this is just a wonderful affordable entry into Campfire Audio's IEM world, which I think is fantastic. So this is a single driver IEM, one full range silicone dynamic driver per side. And again, it's an all new design, all new tuning.
Yeah.
It has a USB-C terminated cable, which I think is very cool. On that cable, built-in DAC, supports up to 32384. It has an inline mic with 3 button controls. This is very handy. We all have smartphones these days.
Yeah.
If you have one with USB-C, you carry your Axion around in your pocket. You have a portable rig in your pocket, plug it into your phone, and you've got a setup. I think that's fantastic. Here's what they say about it. We set out to provide a high-performance, accessible entry into the world of high-fidelity portable audio. Axion checks all boxes when it comes to true hi-fi on the go, incredible sonic performance, plug-and-play usability, lightweight, and comfortable. It is all those things. It also has MMCX connectors on the earpiece side, so if you have a straight, like a straight plug MMCX cable, it will work with this. You can get those from Campfire Audio too, I'm sure, so you can plug it into your DAP. But even with the USB-C termination that it comes with, you can plug that in your computer too.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is very cool. So as far as the sound signature goes, I would describe this as a richer tonality with sparkle. So it has like a mid-rich tonality with nice bass impact and also a nice treble sparkle.
Right.
It's a nice Campfire Audio IEM signature. Again, it's only $249. I do love that USB-C cable because it is something I'm just going to carry in my pocket or in my bag. So do not miss the Campfire Audio Axion at CanJam.
At CanJam SoCal 2024, there were a lot of product launches. And among the few standouts was unquestionably this. This is the Campfire Audio Clara.
Yes.
This IEM was developed, of course, by Campfire Audio, but with musician Alessandro Cortini. And it coincided with the launch of an album of his called Nati Infiniti. Wonderful album, by the way. But you might know him more from his work with Nine Inch Nails. He's a core member of Nine Inch Nails, a multi-instrumentalist with Nine Inch Nails. And I'm a huge Nine Inch Nails fan. I was actually at their first album's tour, the Detroit stop, opened up by Meat Beat Manifesto. And that was years before Alessandro joined the band. Anyway, big Nine Inch Nails fan. So they developed this, and Alessandro was so excited about having people hear this for the first time because he was very happy with the results. So I wanted to hear it for sure at the show. Now, Ken Ball from Campfire Audio had this to say about it. He said, "This model is, in my opinion, the best hybrid we have ever made, but I'll let Alessandro talk about the sound and voicing when that time comes since he guided me on its development. We are doing an initial small run of the clear blue 3D printed hand lacquered shell with stainless steel matte black PVD lid, MMCX ring, and tip parts." That's the one you're holding.
Yep.
The clear blue shell is ongoing, while we will also offer a limited run of 50 sets of it and a 3D printed titanium alloy solid monolithic shell, which is what I'm holding.
Right.
I love titanium everything, and so I had to get one of the pairs of the 50.
Yep.
And so I ordered these right when I found out about them. Well, after I heard them.
Yeah.
And this pair's mine. So let's talk about what it is. Ken said it's a hybrid. It uses a 10 millimeter biocellulose dual neomagnet dynamic driver, Knowles dual diaphragm mid-BA, and Knowles dual high-frequency tweeter. It uses the TAEC resonator on the high driver, that's tuned acoustic expansion chamber, and tuned mid-acoustic front acoustic bore.
Right.
Now, in terms of how it sounds, I would say first of all, the first thing I noticed about it was the imaging.
Yeah.
It images quite wide, and it's a lovely, coherent wide image. That was literally the first thing I noticed about it when I started one of my test tracks. And of course, it doesn't image out of head. You need DSP pretty much to get it out of your head. But as IEMs go, it's a nice, wide, coherent image. I love the way everything's staged. In terms of tonal balance, I would call it on the rich side of my neutral range for sure.
Yeah.
Love the bass emphasis. Very tastefully applied, very impactful. The mids are bell clear.
They are.
And I love that about them as well. And the highs are detailed, but never bright for me. So yeah, I love these. Now for you, the bass is probably a little on the heavier side of your range.
It is.
You tend to like things that are bass tuned, perceived flat sound, and these have some emphasis, which I prefer. That's more. So these were squarely in my tonal wheelhouse.
Yeah.
So with that imaging, just a beautiful sounding pair. And the moment I heard them, I ordered the titanium pair, which I'm so happy to have. So at any CanJam you go to where they have a Clara, listen to it because I think it is the best sounding IEM that Campfire Audio has yet made. So this is the Campfire Audio Astrolith.
Yeah.
This is actually a pretty unique IEM. As driver configuration goes,
Definitely.
it's a dual planar magnetic IEM. I'll talk more about that in a second. So I remember talking to Ken Ball from Campfire Audio
a while before they released the Astrolith.
Yeah.
He was so excited about this one.
Mm-hmm.
I think if you were to ask him, he'd probably say this is probably among the very best IEMs they've made so far.
Right.
I can see why he's so excited about it. So let's talk about it. Again, it's a dual planar magnetic IEM, which is quite unusual.
Mm-hmm.
It uses a 14mm driver plus something called AAOI for the lows through mids. AAOI stands for Additive Acoustic Optical Inclusion Housing. These chambers are carefully engineered to create precisely controlled acoustic volumes and ensure the targeted vision for Astrolith sonic performance.
Right.
It also uses a 6mm driver plus PPR for the highs. PPR stands for Particle Phase Resonator. Campfire's PPR smooths and tempers the 6mm driver while still allowing it to shine and do what it does best, create lightning-fast transients, resolution, and top-end detail.
Mm-hmm.
And that it definitely has.
It does that.
So it's, as far as the chassis goes, it's a 3D printed acrylic body with a mirror-finished stainless steel faceplate. Actually, it's a lovely looking piece.
It definitely is.
All right, so now let's talk about the sound. So when they released the Astrolith, Campfire Audio also released a measurement. Now the thing is, I don't know what measurement fixture they used for that measurement, but that measurement, at least to me, doesn't look like what I'm hearing.
Right.
For whatever that's worth. And I haven't measured it yet, so I don't know what my measurement will look like and if it'll look like what I'm hearing. But it doesn't sound to me like their measurement looks. The tonal balance of the Astrolith, to me, it's on the rich side for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, would you agree with that?
I do.
Smooth sounding overall, but it has this like a sparkle to it, a sparkly detail to it that, I mean, I'm guessing that's a 6mm driver.
Mm-hmm.
And I really love that combination.
Yeah.
Because it's like a non-fatiguing overall signature, and it's super easy to listen to, but that sparkly detail is a lovely thing with it.
Yeah, there's no edge to it. It doesn't really pierce or anything like that.
Right.
But it is sparkly.
I agree. So that I dig. So that said, for this type of tonal bounce, there's a surprising amount of detail coming through, but yet it's, again, easy to listen to.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, I can understand why Ken Ball was so excited about the Astrolith. I do love that they're doing something different with this dual planar magnetic design.
Yeah.
And the Astrolith is a can't miss IEM. Now, as you well know, the Canpur CP622B has been one of my reference IEMs at any price since the first day I heard them.
Yeah, it's been in your rotation for a while.
I love the Canpur CP622B. So you can imagine how excited I was when Canpur announced these.
Yeah.
This is the Canpur CP622B Ti.
Right. Titanium.
Titanium. We love titanium, and they do have beautiful titanium shells.
Oh, yeah.
So when they first announced them, and we hadn't yet heard it, we were a bit mystified by what the differences were, even with the description they gave.
They were a little cryptic,
They were a little cryptic. So they said new tuning with original configuration because it has the same drivers.
Right, exactly.
As the CP622B. Then they said we have blended in the sound signature of titanium alloy into the CP622B Ti in order to create a new experience for our customers.
Which sounds good, but doesn't really tell you much.
It didn't really tell us much.
Yeah.
So I'll talk about the sound in just a minute, but for those not familiar with the CP622B, let's talk about the drivers because they're the same. So on each side, this is a 10-driver design. On each side, there's 6 Sonian balanced armature drivers, 2 Sonian ESTs, electrostatic tweeters, and 2 bone conduction drivers, and they're mid-range bone conduction drivers.
Right.
And the CP622B was the first IEM I'd ever heard with mid-range bone conduction drivers, and it has one of the most magical mid-ranges, in my opinion, to my ears, in an IEM that I've heard.
It does.
I'll give a little bit of a spoiler. The CP622B Ti continues that.
Thankfully, yes.
So I'm very happy with that. All right, it's a 5-way crossover. And also, the CP622B Ti, another difference I should mention, is it has an optimized shell.
Oh, yeah.
For more comfortable fit. I will say I find these to be somewhat more comfortable than the CP622Bs for sure.
Mm-hmm.
All right, the faceplate, which is gorgeous,
yes,
was co-designed with Eletech. So the first time I saw them, I thought it was just a zigzag.
Yeah, if you're just looking quickly, it does kind of look that way.
Right, but if you look more carefully, you realize it's a very artful, unique presentation that says 622B.
Yeah, love that.
Yeah, I love it too. It also comes with an updated custom Eletech cable, limited to 100 sets globally.
It's kind of a shame because I feel like a lot of people are going to be missing out with only 100 sets out there.
Yeah, I agree. So at CanJam, you don't want to miss
the
CP622B Ti because this might be your one chance to hear them.
Right.
And they're $4,399 US, which they're somewhat more expensive than the original Canpur CP622Bs.
They are, but that one stays in the line. So the original 6.
The original one.
Yeah.
Yeah. So these are limited. All right. Let's talk about the sound differences as I hear them. So again, one of the most magical things about the Canpur CP622B was the mid-range.
Yes.
it continues with these, thankfully. Now, the other thing, the funny thing is with the Campfire CP622B, we both love it.
Yeah.
One of the things that you said was if you could change anything about it, you'd maybe give it a little more treble.
Yes, I would.
And maybe lean up the bass a little bit.
Yes, I would.
So these essentially are nearly perfect for you then.
Yeah, I wonder if they had my photo in their design room when they were tweaking it, because
Yeah, maybe.
I kind of feel like they made it for me.
Yeah. So they do come. I didn't think I wanted more treble with the Campfire CP622B.
But you see where I was going.
It works. It's beautiful. There's more air with this, so I get where you were going with that. They took a little bit of growl out of the sub bass.
I know you'll miss a little bit of that, but
Maybe. So I do. I mean, it sounds different, but yet the same.
it is. Yeah, it's definitely familial.
And they image beautifully as well, which is another thing that the Campfire CP622B does. So you don't lose it with these. In fact, these image at least as well.
Right.
So for me, they're like two different sounding IEMs. I love them both. I can't really decide which one I prefer. I know you prefer these.
Yeah.
And at CanJam, given that these are limited, make sure that you do not miss the Campfire CP622B tie, whether you've heard the original one or not. And also make sure to check out the original CP622B. Now, without a doubt, at CanJam Singapore 2025, I would say the biggest star of the show was a new IEM from a new company. It's called the Mysticraft Acoustic Research HEX.
Yeah.
Mysticraft Acoustic Research is a new company from Lee Kwan Min. You guys probably know him from Elysian Acoustic Labs. The HEX is the flagship. It's like $9,000, so it's quite expensive. I will only say, we don't have it here right now, unfortunately. I heard it briefly there. First impressions, it was phenomenal. I wasn't alone. It was probably the star of that show. Here's what it has in it. It's 13 drivers. They say it's the world's first hex brid IEM, so it's 6 different kinds of drivers. On each side, one 9.2 millimeter Mystic LSR dynamic driver for bass, 2 Sonian bone conduction drivers that they say provide enhanced warmth and smooth mids, 5 balanced armature drivers for mids and highs, 2 planar magnetic drivers that they say contribute to a spacious and natural soundstage, 2 EST or electrostatic tweeter drivers for extended treble clarity and air, and 1 piezoelectric driver, which they say adds subtle nuances and textured acoustics to the overall sound experience. Advanced crossover design. It's a 10-way crossover design.
Dang.
With 6 different kinds of drivers. You just have to hear it. It was very, very impressive. One of the best first impressions from an IEM I've ever had. And I can't wait to hear it again. It will be at CanJam. Don't miss it. The faceplates, by the way, are also gorgeous. They're handcrafted. So make sure to check out the HEX at CanJam. Now, they had another model at CanJam Singapore that was much less expensive. It was $999. I don't know if it has a name yet, but it was a tribrid. Maybe that's the name. But the Mysticraft tribrid had 7 drivers with a 5-way crossover. On each side, one 9.2 millimeter Mystic LSR custom dynamic driver, 2 Sonian 2600 balanced armature drivers, 1 Knowles DWFK dual balanced armature, 1 dual planar driver, a brass dynamic driver chamber with isolated front and back chambers. And I think the tribrid has titanium shells. It'll come with a high-purity Ono continuous cast copper cable with an oxygen-free copper plug. Again, $999. I heard that one briefly, too. There was a line. It's like 45 minutes I waited in line to hear these things, and I didn't want to take too long because there were so many people behind me waiting. But first impressions for both were pretty stunning. Yeah. And again, I wasn't alone. Check out the impressions thread for CanJam Singapore 2025. They were the hits of the show. This is the Kinera Thor King. Now, given their lineup, I'm not 100% sure it's the flagship right now, but I think it is.
Right.
Anyway, I think it's a worthy flagship, but I'll get to that in a second. I also want to talk about my first experience with them, which was a little different, but let's talk about what it is first. So the Kinera Thor King is an 11-driver tribrid IEM. On each side, there's one 10-millimeter dynamic driver with a polymer fiber composite diaphragm, 6 Knowles balanced armature drivers, and a 2 mid-low and 4 high configuration, and 4 Sonian ESTs, that's electrostatic tweeters, in a 4-way crossover design.
Right.
The housing is gorgeous.
It is.
It's a multi-coated precious metal housing shaped to reduce the sense of pressure on the ears.
Yeah, I believe with this particular piece, because it's not the lightest of IEMs, they paid special attention to the sculpting, because when you have a heavier IEM, it can sometimes put pressure on specific areas of the ear. This doesn't seem to do that.
So that's a very individual thing, comfort.
Right. Yeah.
To my ears, these are very comfortable.
Oh, yeah.
And they are for you.
They are for me.
Okay, glossy silver or matte silver finish?
I would go towards the matte silver, but I do love the glossy because it has a nice, just a real nice presence to it.
I would absolutely go for glossy, especially with that faceplate, which I'm going to get to in a second. So it has nickel alloy faceplates that are hand engraved, shaped, then sandblasted.
Yeah.
And that sandblasted finish, I think, contrasts beautifully with the glossy housing.
It does.
And it has a Norse-inspired design,
Yeah.
which in the audio world, apparently Norse themes are very popular.
Yeah.
Have been for a while. In this case, it works very well.
Yes, it does.
Now I want to talk about my first experience with the Kinera Thor King, which was back at CanJam Hong Kong 2025. I heard what may have been like late prototype, late pre-production, and I told them I really like it, but it's bright for me. And I don't think it was ear fatigue. I'm usually pretty good about that and sussing that out, but maybe. But I think they've refined it since then, is all I'm saying. Now, we know these are production units. These are full production Kinera Thor Kings, and they are not bright to my ears.
No.
And are they to yours?
No, they're not.
So, okay, let's talk about the sound, like the profile. I would say they're a neutral IEM in my range of neutral for sure.
Yep.
I'm going to start with that treble because, I don't find it bright, but it's very sparkly.
It is, and I like it.
Yeah, I do too. I love it. And so, and extended, at least as far as these ears can hear, very extended treble, very sparkly, but not bright. Also, I've run every sibilance test track I can through it, and it doesn't impart sibilance, which is very important for me. The mids to me are bell clear, neutral.
Yeah.
And the bass.
Yeah, I want to talk about the bass for a second here because this is where I was kind of surprised. So it has a lovely bass presence and it has some real power to it. However, it doesn't seem to impart a lot of energy into the bass, especially in the sub bass. However, if you're listening to something that has a lot of sub bass, say like a Hans Zimmer track, it's going to let that shine.
Yeah, so it's not a bass head IEM to my ears at all.
No, it is not.
But I don't find it bass light.
Right.
I would say the bass is on the more neutral side, but it does have some impact and slam.
And nice texture.
Yeah, I don't know how it's tuned, but it definitely has some nice low bass extension.
Yeah.
And I also find the imaging to be wide, coherent.
Yeah.
This is a worthy flagship IEM from Kinera.
Yeah, and it's what, $24.99 US, so it's not even crazy expensive as flagships go.
And as IEM flagships go today, I think that's reasonably priced for its performance.
Yeah.
At CanJam, the Kinera Thor King is something you absolutely want to check out. When it comes to Kinera IEMs, especially if I factor in price, I would have to say my favorite Kinera IEM, considering price especially, would be the Kinera Verdandi.
Right.
Fantastic IEM, frankly, at any price, I think.
Yeah.
It's a more neutral IEM. I consider it a rich neutral IEM to my ears.
Yes.
Love it. So this is also, in my hands, a Kinera Verdandi. It's very different, though. This is a Kinera Verdandi TWS, or True Wireless.
Yes.
This is a flagship True Wireless IEM, and we both love it.
Yes, we do.
We both love it. And now I want to mention really quickly that you can use it wired.
Yeah, that was a big surprise to me.
Yeah, I didn't know that. So when I first heard a prototype some time ago, I didn't know that you could also use it wired. It does have 2-pin connectors, so you can use your favorite IEM cables with it. I think most people will be more interested in its wireless performance.
Yes.
Understandably so. So let's talk about what's inside. In each earpiece, there's one 6mm dynamic driver for lows, one bone conduction driver for lows, 2 Knowles balanced armatures for mids and highs, 2 Sonyan ESTs, electrostatic tweeters, for highs and ultra highs. Now, if you're familiar with the Verdandi, that sounds familiar.
Yeah.
However, they did make some optimizations.
Yeah, specifically with the bone conduction driver in this, they actually kind of went crazy in my opinion. They use finite element analysis, which I love because they were going after a specific goal, and I think they achieved it. So what they've said is that compared with the cavity design of the original Verdandi, the new layout changes the energy distribution of the bone conduction unit, effectively reducing the loss and dispersion of sound energy during the transmission process, making the sound energy of the unit more concentrated, thus bringing users a purer auditory experience. And everything they've done with that optimization sounds wonderful.
Yes, so it's very impactful.
Yes, it is.
It's not a bass head True Wireless IEM.
No, it's nice and
very audiophile.
Yes.
But it does have impactful bass, which I really like.
Yeah.
It has a hand-painted chassis like the wired-only Verdandi.
Yeah, beautiful.
Beautiful. So if you watch, I think on their channel they have a video, we've seen it, of how they hand-paint them.
Yeah.
Quite involved.
Yes, it is.
Quite involved. There are touch controls. So it's not like they just took the wired-only Verdandi and shoved a bunch of wireless guts into it. We talked about the optimization with the bone conduction driver for the True Wireless application, but it also has capacitive touch controls.
Yes.
There's also transparency mode.
Yep, that's appreciated.
There's a game mode for low latency.
I love that.
I do too, especially you're more of a gamer, but even for video.
Yeah.
It's helpful. It has Bluetooth 5.4.
And you expect to see that on a flagship, so I'm happy that it's here.
I am too. It uses the Qualcomm QCC 3091 chipset. It has SBC AAC, aptX adaptive with aptX lossless.
Yeah, good to have that.
Yes, I agree. 6 hours runtime per charge, which is actually solid.
Yeah.
And then the charging case, which is a CNC machine case, actually a lovely case, provides an additional 18 hours of listening time with the charges it provides, and it's USB-C. Now, I want to talk about listening impressions. It's a Verdandi.
Yeah, through and through.
Beautifully executed. Very much, honestly, I would have to say right now, Of all the true wireless IEMs I can think of, I can't think of one that I think is better.
Right.
And it's fantastic. So even if you weren't shopping for a flagship class true wireless IEM, maybe you didn't even know there was one, make sure at CanJam to audition the Verdandi TWS. But especially if you've been looking for like the best sounding wireless earphone,
right,
like audiophile class, flagship class, then you absolutely must audition at CanJam, the Kinera Verdandi TWS.
Now, I've said in CanJam preview videos before, DUNU makes a number of IEMs that I find incredible. This is joining that list. This is the DUNU Vulcan 2.
DUNU actually makes a lot of cool products in several categories.
Yeah, they definitely do. So the DUNU Vulcan 2 is an 8-driver hybrid. It has 2 dynamic drivers inside, but I find this interesting because one is independently focused on the ultra lows and one is independent for the low frequencies. They're not sharing double duties.
One is like a dedicated sub.
Yeah, exactly. It has 6 balanced armatures, and 2 of those are custom Knowles BAs for the mid-range, and 4 are custom Knowles BAs for the highs and ultra highs. It also has inside a 4-way crossover with a physical and electronic filter inside, and I think that is very cool.
Yeah, I'm curious about the physical side of that.
Yeah. The chassis is aerospace-grade aluminum. It's, in my opinion, beautiful. I think it's very nicely designed. It's very detailed as far as the lovely curves
Subtle.
and slopes
It's
they
like
have.
subtle and sculpted.
Yeah, exactly. I like that quite a bit. It also comes available in 2-pin or MMCX terminations. Now, we have the 2-pin version here, but if you have aftermarket premium cables with MMCX options, you have choices.
Choose that option.
The cable, it comes with a high-purity, silver-plated, single crystal copper Litz cable, and that's terminated with DUNU's Q-Lock mini plugs. In the box, you get 4.4 millimeter and 3.5 millimeter terminations, but it also has an adapter for 6.35 millimeter.
And I like how DUNU's cables always look and feel like aftermarket, like high-quality aftermarket cables.
Yeah, they definitely do. It has multiple ear tips in the case.
A lot of ear tips.
And speaking of the case, it's a pretty cool case because inside there's this stretch mesh pocket, which is large enough for like a portable DAC. I like that.
To hold all those ear tips or
ear
portable
tips.
DAC.
Yeah, exactly. So it's $359 in the US, which I think is a great price because now I want to talk about the sound. So I think it's a great price because to me, this sounds lovely. It is definitely a vocal focused sound signature, and DUNU even says that in their materials. The vocal range as a whole is very clear, very detailed, very resolving. But when you compare it with the entire signature as a whole, it has a very nice, wide, spacious presentation. And I love the treble detail. It's very nice in this.
I agree.
And then the bass, to my ears, is a little emphasized. However, people like you're going to find it more neutral, I imagine.
Yeah, I do.
But it's very well done. Overall, the whole package is so nice. I was just tapping my toes right from the first song.
All right, so how I perceive the tonal balance, Brian and I have different tastes, but I agree with you 100%. There seems to be a focus on vocal clarity.
Yes.
Done beautifully, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
So beautiful vocal clarity. Bass, to me, is definitely on my kind of like, I would say it's perceived flat.
Right.
It's emphasized only to the extent that it has really nice extension.
Mm-hmm.
But I find it's level to be perceived flat to my ears. That said, the overall balance to me is lovely. I think it's going to be a very popular IEM at the price.
I have no doubt.
And I love the vocal clarity and the wide sound stage.
Yeah, so at CanJam, when you get the chance to audition this, definitely do because you'll find out why it's joining my list of DUNU favorites. This is DUNU's Studio SA6 EST. And I'm so happy they sent this over for us to try because I've kind of fallen in love with it.
Yes, you have.
So the SA6 EST, inside, it's an 8-driver hybrid, and that's comprised of 6 balanced armatures with 2 Sonian custom low-frequency BAs, 2 Knowles custom mid-high frequency BAs, and 2 Knowles custom high-frequency BAs, paired with 2 of Sonian's custom ultra-high frequency ESTs. Now, it's on the outside, it's finished in a custom nebula faceplate, which I think is absolutely beautiful.
It is beautiful.
And then the cable that it comes with is quite nice because it's terminated with DUNU's Q-Lock Plus interchangeable plugs. They call it the Hulk Pro Mini cable. And it comes with a 4.4 millimeter termination and 3.5 millimeter termination. So you're pretty much set to go straight out of the box, whether you want to run balanced or single-ended.
I love the way they executed the interchangeable plug concept.
I really do too. And the studio in the name kind of gives you a hint where they might have been going with the sound signature because to me, this is well within my wheelhouse. I love this signature. So starting at the low end, I find it a little bit elevated. Not much, but enough for me to say that's a little elevated.
Still within your range, though.
Still within my range.
Okay.
Oh, absolutely.
All right.
Mids sound fantastic, and there's some wonderful stuff going on in the high end. There's a really nice treble resolution and detail that comes through, and I can sit and listen to these for hours. I absolutely love them.
I know you do. The funny thing is, when I hear them, so our bass preferences are definitely different. I tend to like more bass than you do for sure. You hear them as, I knew you'd hear them as maybe slightly elevated, which you do.
Just slightly, yeah.
And for me, they're not elevated at all in the bass. So what I say about them is the bass hits, but isn't emphasized to me, but it does hit beautifully.
It does.
Lively, forward-sounding treble sparkle.
Yes.
And I feel like with the ESTs, they're not defining the treble.
No, I agree. It's kind of like an enhancement.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they're not like using them to fully define the treble. Like
Exactly.
You said, yeah, like enhancing the treble. It has an airy presentation, which is probably what the ESTs are doing, enhancing for air. And I can see why Brian enjoyed these so much. That's in my listening notes. You made my listening notes.
Hey.
So the funny thing is, the treble is on the upper range of my preference,
I can see it.
and yet doesn't cross it. So there you go. I like that. And when I heard that, I knew that for you, you're like, what I consider on the upper end of my range is probably square in the middle of your range. So yeah, love the SA6 ESTs.
Yeah, if anybody asks me what they should try at CanJam, I'm telling them go here.
The IEM cable I have affixed to the Elysian Acoustic Labs Annihilator here is a prototype of a flagship class cable that will be introduced by Effect Audio at CanJam Shanghai for the first time, called the Centurion 2.
Right.
It's a 16th anniversary edition cable, so happy anniversary, Effect Audio. It's a 24-gauge 8-wire design. We don't know the price yet,
We do not.
but I think it'll be, as a flagship class cable from Effect Audio, it'll be expensive.
That's my guess too.
That's my guess too.
Yep.
Materials. All UP OCC materials. That's ultra pure Ono continuous cast materials. Check out this list of materials. Palladium gold silver alloy, gold plated gold silver alloy, gold plated silver, platinum silver alloy, palladium silver alloy, pure silver.
Yeah, that's quite the list.
Yes, quite the list. And looking at that, yeah, I think this is going to be expensive.
Oh yeah.
It'll have dual layer titanium alloy Centurion helmet for the Y splitter. We only have seen renderings of it. Absolutely gorgeous. Has both mirror polished and sandblasted finishes.
Yeah, I always appreciate when you have something that's kind of interesting texturally to look at. So you have the contrasting materials there.
Shiny and matte.
Yeah, exactly.
I like that too.
Yep.
1.2 meter length. That's around 4 feet. It'll have full Connex interchangeable connectors, which came in handy here. I'll talk about that in just a second. Palladium and gold dual plated copper 4.4 millimeter termination. It'll come with a multi-compartment leather carrying case. We don't have that case yet.
Right.
But it's going to be from Effect Audio, so I'm sure it'll be gorgeous. It'll have dedicated space for Connex connectors, tool, and tips, which is nice. And again, only 50 available globally. And the first time you'll be able to hear it is at CanJam Shanghai. Now, here's what Effect Audio says about the Centurion 2. Carrying the legacy of our flagship lineage, Centurion 2 retains the signature UPOCC gold-plated silver, a hallmark material found in all our past flagships, known for its warm resonance and refined tonality. They also say it pays homage to the industry-first UPOCC gold-plated gold-silver alloy introduced in the original Centurion, a groundbreaking innovation at the time, celebrated for its signature warmth and unparalleled resolution. Given that they're highlighting warmth twice in that description, it made me want to pair it with the Annihilator, because the Annihilator is a rich-sounding IEM that happens to be somehow still largely defined by its treble.
Right.
Some of the most resolving treble in any IEM I've heard. Pushes at the limits of my preference, but doesn't cross it. And I just had to hear how this paired with that beautifully. The other IEM that came to mind was the Lime Ears Terra. Not as rich sounding as the Annihilator, but a beautiful sounding IEM nonetheless. And again, has treble that pushes against my limits, but doesn't cross it. And again, another beautiful pairing. The Connex connectors came very much in handy because the Lime Ears Terra uses 2-pin. The Annihilator uses
Pentacon
connector. So it was lovely to be able to switch that out. That's wonderful flexibility. Again, the Centurion 2 from Effect Audio, flagship class cable. CanJam Shanghai will be the first time you'll be able to hear it. Make sure not to miss it because they're going to go fast.
Oh, yeah. Okay, now this next bit is specifically for anybody who's cable shopping right now, because I might be able to save you a few bucks.
Now, since I'm always cable shopping,
yeah,
I'm all ears.
Yes, we definitely are. So ahead of CanJam SoCal 2024, Effect Audio sent us pre-production versions of the entire Signature Series 2 line of cables. Since that show, the entire Signature Series 2 has released, so we've been spending more and more time with them, getting to know them inside and out.
Yes, we have.
Now, the Signature Series 2 actually takes some of the technology they developed for their Code series of cables, so like the Code 23, Code 24, and Code 24C, for example.
Love the Code 24, still use it a lot.
Yeah. I love the 24C, it's fantastic. But the technology that they've taken from those cables is their solid core technology. And they've incorporated that into all of the Signature Series 2 cables. And I love that because these are more affordable cables. And I love it when flagship level technology comes down and it's more affordable, because that's when I can actually afford it. So all of the new Signature Series 2 cables, they are 26 gauge cabling, and they're exclusively 8-wire designs. They all come terminated with Connex. You can choose between MMCX, 2-pin, Pentacon, IPX, or A2DC. And then if you wanted to add more later on, you have that option as well. And then on the termination side, it's all rhodium-plated brass plugs. You can choose 2.5, 3.5, or 4.4 millimeter. You can also upgrade to a Pentacon OFC oxygen-free copper 4.4 millimeter plug, or you can go all out and go with the Termex swappable system, which is what I would recommend if you can swing for it, because that just gives you so much more flexibility.
With the huge variety of in-ears we have here, I love Termex and Connex.
Yeah, absolutely. And Effect Audio does say that all of the Signature Series 2 cables feature sonic improvements across the board. Now, for the three that we have, all three in the line, I've been spending most of my time with this. This is the Aries S2. Now, the Aries S2 is the entry-level model in their series. It's a copper cable with central solid core design, and this is going to come in right around $200 US. That's about $80 less expensive than the original Aries S. Now, why have I been spending the most of my time with this one? Because it's currently paired, you'll notice, with the DUNU Studio SA6 EST. That's an in-ear that I love. If I'm not mistaken, I believe the stock cable on that in-ear is silver. It's a silver cable.
I think you're right.
I wanted to try swapping materials around, and I went with the copper on the Aries S2. And I got to say, I think a lot of DUNU Studio SA6 owners are going to be checking this out together.
You should.
Absolutely. Now, there's the next one up the line is the Cadmus 2. The Cadmus 2 is a silver-plated copper with central silver core design cable. That's going to come in around $250 US, roughly around $50 less expensive than the original Cadmus. Now, I've been listening to that one. Let me explain. But I'm listening to that one with the Meze Audio Alba. Now, I need to explain for some people because the Meze Audio Alba is a very affordable in-ear. It's actually less expensive than the cable
I was
itself.
just about to say that, yep.
Yeah. However, I think a lot of Meze Alba owners will be stopping by to try this pairing together because I think it's absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, I think they should too.
And then the last cable in the Signature Series 2 is the Eros S2. Now, the Eros S2 is a silver central solid core design with 6 multi-sized core bundles. Now, that one is coming in at $299 US. That's the same price as the original Eros S. However, because it's bringing that code technology down into the Signature Series, I think that's still a better value overall. So, still saving some money there. I've been pairing that one, believe it or not, with the High Senior Mega 5 EST, because that was an in-ear that blew both of us away. We didn't know what to expect when it arrived, and I think a lot of High Senior owners will be trying that combination. If you own the Mega 5 EST, you kind of owe it to yourself to stop by the exhibit and try those together.
Yeah, I love that they're hitting these price points because these are not price points we're used to from Effect Audio. They're known for their much more expensive cables.
Yeah.
I've visited Effect Audio's headquarters in Singapore, several times now, I think.
Yeah.
And they are very serious about what they're doing there.
They really are.
And I love that they're hitting these price points now.
Yeah. So anytime you can try an Effect Audio cable at CanJam, do yourself a favor, you have to hear it. Now, I want to talk about another Effect Audio cable. This is the Effect Audio AXC. But before I do, I need to give you a little bit of a history lesson, and you might actually not know this as well.
Oh, really? Tell me.
So in 2023, Effect Audio, right around the Christmas holiday, released a very limited edition, special edition cable. It was called the Aries Cadmus or Aries X Cadmus. It was a fusion between the Aries and the Cadmus. It was available in very limited quantities, and once they were gone, they were receiving a lot of requests to bring it back. With the launch of the Signature Series 2, Effect Audio thought this might be the right time to revisit that. This is the Effect Audio AXC. It's joining the Signature Series 2 as another Signature Series 2 cable. Now, like the previous generation, it is a fusion. The AXC is a fusion. It's a crossover between the Aries S2 and the Cadmus 2 cables. Now, it's going to sit directly above the Cadmus 2 in the Signature Series 2 line. It's going to come in right around $269 US. And it's a fusion, they say it's a fusion of Aries S2's power and Cadmus 2's clarity. Inside, like a lot of the other Signature Series 2 cables, it is an 8-wire design, 26 gauge cabling. It also features some of the technology from that code series. So it has a copper with central solid core cabling, and silver-plated copper with central solid core as well. It features multi-size strands and multi-size core bundles. Like the other ones, it comes, with optional Connex connectors. By default, you get 2-pin, but you can select other ones as well. And it also comes terminated in either 2.5 millimeter, 3.5 millimeter, or 4.4 millimeter EA standard rhodium plated brass plugs. Now, when a cable like this comes in, you got to figure out what am I going to pair it with. Well, I reached, believe it or not, for the Lime Ears Terra. Now, the stock cable on that in-ear, I believe, is just a standard Effect Audio's copper cable. But because of the fusion of the Effect Audio copper and silver, I thought that might be a good pairing. And, the Terra didn't blow me away. I liked it, but it didn't blow me away. I'm actually really enjoying these two together. So anybody who has the Terra, you need to try these at CanJam, absolutely.
Yeah, I dig the Terra, and I haven't even tried it with this cable, so I want to definitely do that.
Well, here you go. Now, these little IEMs, they are true wireless models from Noble Audio, and they're called the Focus Rex 5. Now, as I'm sure many headfires know, the Focus family has a number of headphones in it, and these are the latest true wireless in that family, and they've become my favorite true wireless Noble Audio piece.
Yeah, they're excellent.
In the entire line. So inside the Rex 5, you're going to find a 5-driver tribrid system with one 10mm dynamic, 3 balanced armatures, and one 6mm planar magnetic driver. It has Bluetooth 5.4 with multi-point, which I appreciate, and you get aptX adaptive and LDAC, so you get some more modern, high-end codecs built right in. It has personal hearing calibration, which admittedly I typically don't usually end up using, but it also has active noise cancellation, and in this I've used it a lot because I'm happy to say it's good ANC. It doesn't feel like they just threw it in there. They actually took their time to develop the ANC system with the headphone, and it sounds wonderful together. It has 5 hours of runtime with that ANC enabled, and if you turn it off, you're going to get 7 hours, so when you're at home, you get better listening life. This is with a case, and the case is a wireless charging case. It has more than 3 full charges in the case itself. So when you're out and about, you have plenty of charges. Toss the in-ears back in the case, you're good to go. It is compatible with the Noble Focus app, and this is where I want to talk about the EQ. Because in the Focus app, they have a 10-band EQ that you can personalize and customize it the way you want. They also have a number of excellent presets. 2 of them really stand out for my liking, but they're all usable, which I think is excellent to have. And it's only $449, which I think makes it actually not even the most expensive Noble true wireless piece, yet it's still become my favorite.
Yeah. What I love about I'm not bothered by that price at all. I think it's a really strong value.
Yeah.
And what I love about what Noble does is they seem to be they're trying to give us the true Noble experience that we get with their other wired IEMs in true wireless.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't feel like a half effort. I feel like a lot of effort goes into these.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
And it shows in the signature too. So the signature to me, I consider it like a smooth fun, but still kind of natural sound signature. So you've got some fun in the low end. You've got kind of a smoother top end, but still nicely detailed for a smooth signature. And then it's got a really nice natural transition between everything. But with that Noble Focus app, a little bit of EQ for me, toss a little more energy into the treble, maybe pull down the bass a little bit, depending on the songs that I'm listening to. And they sound excellent. I mean, I really enjoy these things. And, if anybody gets a chance to try them at CanJam, they have to, because if you're looking in the true wireless space, this is now a must-hear. It's going to be one of the top contenders.
I don't remember which CanJam it was at. It could have been a CanJam SoCal a year or 2 ago, where I first heard the Noble Audio Spartacus.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought it was one of the best IEMs I'd heard from Noble Audio for sure.
Yeah.
It was actually one of my favorite IEMs of whatever show that was that I'm trying to remember. But this is the Noble Audio Aegis 2.
Mm-hmm.
The reason I bring up the Spartacus is because we don't have one here.
Right.
And they said that the Aegis 2 is the sequel to the Noble Spartacus. Tuning was developed with Spartacus lovers in mind.
Yeah.
Okay, this was encouraging to me before I heard it. And then I heard it. I get it. I really love these, actually. These are fantastic. So the Aegis 2 is an 8-driver tribrid IEM, 2 Sonian bone conduction drivers. Spartacus had bone conduction drivers. In fact, that might have been the first Noble with bone conduction drivers.
I want to say it was.
But yeah, don't hold me to it. Anyway, so this is an 8-driver tribrid, 2 Sonian bone conduction drivers, 2 Sonian balanced armatures, 2 Knowles balanced armatures, 2 Sonian EST drivers. So they're keeping both of the major balanced armature manufacturers happy. Knowles and Sonian in one IEM. Again, the sequel to the Noble Spartacus. Black resin housing, custom art faceplate.
Yeah.
Noble's faceplates are... I mean, Noble really, when you think about it, what made them famous at the outset, like when they was part of it, was the way their stuff looks.
Yeah, and the faceplate also does remind me of the Spartacus as well.
It does.
Yeah.
They just do beautiful IEMs. 8-core premium cable with switchable plugs, $1,799.
Yeah.
All right. This is what I think of the Aegis 2, because I don't exactly remember the Spartacus, because we only heard it at that show, and we don't have one here. So I can't really make a direct comparison. So I'll make no comparison directly to the Spartacus, because I only heard it at one show. But this it combines neutrality with, and it's not like overdone, but there's a lot of vocal clarity with this.
Yes.
A lot of mid-range clarity with this. And it's beautifully done. A lot of air too.
Yes.
And so the bass is impactful, controlled, the mids are clean. But I love that sparkle that it's giving to vocal music. And it doesn't and listening to instrumental stuff, because I wanted to see if it was going to have any effect negatively. It doesn't.
Yeah.
It actually it's a nice clarity through the upper mids. Beautifully done. And again, the image is beautiful. So I decided to run it on MDEX. So I hear something like this, I decide to run it on MDEX. Now, we don't run every IEM on MDEX, especially for a preview, because we're so busy when we're doing these previews. But for this one, I had to try. Ran it through, multi-dimensional audio quality score, HEDD Acoustics. Make sure to watch our videos about MDEX. This scored, for mean opinion score timbre, which includes frequency response, spectral flux, and other things, 4.9 out of 5.
Nice.
Mean opinion score immersiveness, 4.1 out of 5. Frankly, I was surprised. That's still a very good score.
Yeah.
I expected it to be better because I hear these imaging beautifully. Mean opinion score distortion, 4.4, which is very high.
Right.
Not high distortion, high score.
Yeah.
So that's a good thing. All right. Mean opinion score overall, 4.9 out of 5. So from an overall standpoint, you can't do much better than that.
Right.
So that's one of the higher scoring IEMs we've ever seen here on multi-dimensional audio quality score. None of that surprised me, except for maybe I expected maybe closer to 5 with the immersiveness score. But what a fantastic IEM. And this will be at CanJam, and you will definitely want to check out the Noble Audio Aegis 2.
Noble Audio will also be showing their all-new Shogun at CanJam Shanghai. The Shogun is a 13-driver quadbrid IEM with 1 dynamic, 6 balanced armature, 4 electrostatic, and 2 bone conduction drivers. It has a gorgeous black and red resin body capped with a striking red and gold Shogun faceplate. When you stop by Noble's exhibit, make sure not to miss the Noble Audio Shogun.
This is the Eletech X Canpur Mona Lisa. As the name would suggest, is a collaboration IEM between Eletech and Campfire. As a fan of Eletech X Cables and Campfire's IEMs, I'm excited to see them working together.
Yeah.
And I'm excited to say these will be at CanJam Shanghai. So I want to talk about the name Mona Lisa only because of this cool faceplate. I don't usually start talking about an IEM's faceplates, but I have to in this case. The most important thing with these is the sound. We're going to get to that in a minute. But the faceplates are genius.
Yes, they are.
So they describe them as Mona Lisa optical illusion faceplates. You know, you're going to see this at CanJam Shanghai. A lot of people going like this.
Yep.
And then pulling them away. Because up close, if you didn't know the name of the IEMs, you would not know that that was the Mona Lisa.
Right.
And then you start to pull them away, and then you see the Mona Lisa. I actually showed my son without telling him the name of the IEMs. I said, what's the first thing you see when you look at these? And he said, an alien? And then he said, no, Mona Lisa.
Yep.
So I think they're genius. But anyways, again, the sound is the most important thing. We'll get there in a minute, but let's talk about what they are. Again, a collaboration between Eletech and Campfire. They are a 10-driver quadbrid design. So on each side, dual Sonian bone conduction drivers, 5 Sonian balanced armatures, dual Sonian electrostatic tweeters, and a single Campfire custom encased planar tweeter, which I don't know a whole lot of information about, but at the show I definitely want to ask about. I'm very curious about this planar tweeter. It's a 6-way crossover design. All right. As you'd imagine from the name and the collaboration, the stock cable is an Eletech cable.
Of course.
It's a 22-gauge cable, multi-sized stranded geometry, dual-type high-purity OCC copper. That's Ono continuous cast copper. And again, they're unveiling this at CanJam Shanghai, shipping in August 2025, limited to 150 units globally based on the sound, which we're going to get to now. I have a feeling these are going to sell out very, very quickly.
I predicted they will.
So you were the first to hear these. Let's hear your sonic impressions first.
Yeah, so popping them in my ears straight away, started listening to some of my favorite tracks, and I immediately got the sense that it was like a reference fun sound signature. So I got some low-end emphasis, which when I'm in a fun mood, I like a little bit, not too much, but this kind of hits that squarely for me. The rest of the sound signature I found kind of relaxed, which is actually really nice because I got to listen to that for hours. No discomfort sonically, no discomfort physically. It was just a wonderfully put together piece.
Yes, I love the way these sound.
Yeah.
So I hear them a little different from you,
You
but
would,
I
yeah.
don't. I almost think it's more just the way we would describe it because of our preferences.
Right.
So you describe it as relaxed. So let's start with the bass. I also agree with you that there's some bass emphasis, but it's very tastefully done.
Yes, it is.
See, for me, it's kind of like right where I like
want
the
it.
bass. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then as far as the mids go, I find them very clean, bell clear
Yep.
mids. And then as treble goes, this is where our description would differ. You describe like mids and treble as relaxed. I describe the treble for me as sparkly. Never bright, but a sparkly
There's
detail.
a nice detail resolution.
Yes, there is. It's a very airy treble to my
Yeah.
ears. And I hear these as a reference IEM. I love the signature. I think they image beautifully. Frankly, at CanJam Shanghai, you want to be sure to check out the Eletech X Canpur Mona Lisa. Stare at that faceplate for a few moments, then give it a listen. They're fantastic. So something else Eletech is becoming known for, their high-end audio accessories.
Right.
Executed at such a high level, stuff just for head fires. Now, Brian and I are both leather goods enthusiasts, and we nerd out about leather goods too. So we even talk about the tanneries, the specific tanneries that make specific leathers of stuff that we have.
Yeah.
And I have those same conversations, as do you, with Eletech.
Yeah.
They're into that stuff too. In fact, they've contacted me before and said, we're going to be making something that you're going to love out of a Merriam horse butt, right? And that's, Merriam's an Italian tannery. Actually, that's that IEM case there. I believe that is a Merriam horse butt.
Yep.
And you can't get it anymore, unfortunately. It was a very limited release. And I'll explain why I'm telling you about it anyway. You'll get it in a second. So the other case that we have here it's a larger case. It's called the Lux Companion case, also sold out.
Right.
It's made of Zonta museum calf leather. Zonta is another Italian tannery, and museum calf leather is like a hand burnished calf skin.
Yeah.
Absolutely beautiful. It has a modular interior. It came with 4 IEM pouches and 5 leather keeper straps. All right. So why am I telling you about it if you can't get them? Because they're regularly releasing these limited edition runs of accessories.
Yeah.
Executed again at such a high level. We've unfortunately missed some that we wanted.
Yeah, I missed a moss green Lux case sometime back, and I still kick myself for that.
Yeah, and you didn't even wait that long. They just went away so quickly.
Yeah.
I ordered the kudu. I didn't miss those. I should have them here. The kudu, which is an antelope.
Yeah, the cavalry cases.
Yeah, that's what they're called. Yeah, the cavalry cases. IEM cases. I got 2 of them, and so I ordered those the moment they came out. So at CanJam, stop by Eletech's exhibit,
right,
and be as surprised as I am sometimes when they have something I hadn't seen before that's probably a limited edition. Their accessories are just executed at such a high level. Absolutely beautiful. Now, you mentioned the Eletech Baroque ear tips. I can safely say at this point, they are my favorite ear tips for IEMs now. And I want to tell a quick story before I explain why. So I go to Tokyo somewhat regularly, and when I go, it's become a custom, as you well know, that I buy a lot of ear tips.
Right.
And there was one trip I went on where I bought so many ear tips that they filled 2 small shopping carts, like literally filled them, because it was all different manufacturers, all different types. And the clerk literally asked me, he said, are those both for you? I said, yes. And he said, are you sure you want all of them? And I said, yeah, no, I'm sure I want all of them. But here's the thing. On my most recent trip to Tokyo, just happened, I bought no ear tips. I think that's the first time in I don't know how many years that I went to Tokyo, came back with no new ear tips. Why? Because of the Baroques. They solve my problem, my fit problems most of the time. It's not just problems. They're just the tips I use most of the time. They're made of a Japanese medical grade silicone. They're super duper supple.
Yes.
They have beautiful structure. The design is genius because they have structure, even though they're like, the silicone almost feels paper thin. Right. And yet, as paper thin and supple as it is, I've never torn a pair. So I've yet to tear a pair. And I can't say that about every ear tip. As you know, there are some ear tips that we just, when we frequently change them, tear apart the insides. Yeah. But these, I have yet to destroy a pair. So the Eletech Baroques to me, and they sound great with just about every IEM I try them with. And oh, by the way, they're not the kind that you just push, I don't want to get this stuck in here. Anyways, that you push that super deep. They're, you just kind of get them into your ear and you'll feel when you get the seal, and that's where you'll usually settle, at least in my ears. So the Eletech Baroques at CanJam, You want to audition your IEMs with them. I don't care which IEMs you're using, at least try them. And I have a feeling you will probably, like me, end up settling on Baroques and buying way fewer ear tips than you may be doing now. We've been to a lot of CanJams.
Sure.
We've talked before about that rare occurrence where we go to a CanJam, we see a company we've never even heard of, sit down, listen to their stuff, and get blown away.
Right. Yep.
Positively.
Yeah.
Happened to me at CanJam Hong Kong 2025 with this. This is the Hercules Audio Moses. I'd never even heard of Hercules Audio before CanJam Hong Kong 2025.
Yep.
So, of course, I'd never heard of the Moses.
Well, I think that launched there at that show.
Oh, did it?
I think so.
Okay, so there must have been some hullabaloo in the Hong Kong community before the show because there was a line to listen to them. And so I waited in line to listen to them. Anyway, let's talk about what they are. It's a 9-driver tribrid IEM. On each side, 1 dynamic for bass, 4 balanced armatures for mid to highs, 4 electrostatic drivers, the ESTs, for ultra highs. And they're beautifully implemented,
They
by the way.
definitely are.
The sound signature to my ears is on the richer side of my preference, but I love them. And I like a richer tonality than you do in general.
Yep.
But even you, when you heard them, you were very impressed, and especially at low listening levels, which is something I noticed too at the show. So I still remember what you said to me because you were like, because you and I both listen quiet at lower volume levels. And when I listen at lower volume levels with this, and I noticed this at CanJam Hong Kong 2025, you still feel like you're getting the full everything.
Yeah, I agree.
From the music.
Yeah.
It's probably an equal loudness contour thing and how they're tuned.
Maybe. Yeah.
Now you turn it up, and then the richness really comes in, probably a little bit more than your preference.
Yeah, a little more.
But you still enjoyed them?
Yeah.
Okay, they image beautifully.
Yes, they do.
All right, so for me, they're still within my preference range, but on the richer side of my preference range. I will say this, they're so good that if you're looking for a richer toned IEM, these are probably going to be among my reference, if not my reference, richer toned IEM right now.
Yeah.
That's how much I love these. Let's talk very quickly. I just want to go through these notes about how they're packaged because they're beautifully built.
Yes, they are.
The machining on the chassis is gorgeous.
It is. Yep.
That was actually the first thing I noticed about them before I put them in my ears. I was like, all right, they're $4,200. So I should mention they're $4,200, so they're expensive.
Yes.
And I remember thinking, I'd never heard of you, but you're charging $4,200 for IEMs. Man, I was very skeptical. But when I saw how they were built, I was somewhat encouraged because they are meticulously crafted.
Yes.
So the CNC machining that goes into these is insane. Just the whole chassis, but then that grill on the faceplate, that tiny little grill, that detail, that's all CNC machined. And then just the rest of the chassis, the titanium chassis, we both love titanium. And then the cable is beautiful.
Yeah.
They're actually the Scepter headphone cable. That's actually an aftermarket cable sold separately if you want to get them separately. It's a 22 gauge 5N Ono continuous cast pure silver cable. All right, with the fixtures on it, beautifully machined again. When I heard this, I decided this is probably going to score very well with MDAX.
Oh, I bet.
So that's HEDD Acoustics multi-dimensional audio quality score metric. It's kind of a virtual panel, if you will. I ran it through MDAX. I think it has the best overall score that we've seen from an IEM so far.
Really?
Yeah. So mean opinion score overall, let's start with its overall score, 4.9 out of 5.
Dang, nice.
We've seen that before, but when you look at the individual metrics, I think this score's higher. So mean opinion score timbre, 4.9 out of 5. So timbre includes frequency response, spectral flux, and other things. Mean opinion score immersiveness, 4.6 out of 5. Among the highest we've seen. Mean opinion score distortion, 4.4 out of 5. Again, very
it's
high.
All high, yeah.
Yeah. So, again, overall score, 4.9 out of 5. I am not surprised.
Yeah.
The Hercules Audio Moses, again, for me, I think is going to be one of my references, if not my reference, for richer sounding IEMs. And a CanJam, if that's the kind of sound signature you look for, even if you don't, and especially if you listen at lower listening levels,
right,
you must hear the Hercules Audio Moses. While we're on the topic of Hercules Audio, I need to talk about this new one that will be at CanJam Shanghai. This is the Hercules Audio Noah. This is a prototype.
Right.
I want to make that clear. And I think this is going to be, we'll start with the price, $380 to $400 US. I think this is going to be one of the biggest hits of the show. I'll explain why in a minute when I get to the sound. Let's talk about what it is first. So the Hercules Audio Noah is a 4-driver hybrid IEM. On each side, 1 9mm solid silicone dynamic driver for bass, 2 Knowles balanced armatures for mids, 1 Knowles balanced armature for highs, and a 3-way crossover design. It'll have an all-metal aluminum alloy housing. It'll look different from this. This is a prototype. It'll come with a Hercules Audio Noah cable called the ARC, It's a 22 gauge 4-wire design, silver plated copper alloy, and silver plated foil wrapped copper alloy with oil immersed treatment, and it'll have a Penacon ear connection. Again, $380 to $400 US. That is why, part of the reason why I think this is going to be one of the biggest hits of CanJam Shanghai.
Oh, yeah.
The main reason, though, is the sound. So I was talking about the Moses just a minute ago. It has become it has become my favorite IEM to listen to at low volume levels.
Mm-hmm.
There's something about its tonal balance that just makes it perfect at low volume levels. It's so lively, dynamic, just alive at low volume levels, like almost nothing else that I can think of. And it sounds fantastic at moderate and high volume levels as well.
Right.
But at low levels, there's just very few things I can think of that can even compare to it for my tastes. The Noah doesn't just sound like it was tuned to be a sibling of the Moses. I feel like they used the Moses as the target curve for the Noah. And to my ears, they did it. So the Moses has more detail, resolution, better imaging, but it's a flagship priced like a flagship.
Yeah, it is.
This is $380 to $400, and it comes closer than I would expect to the Moses at that price. I would never have expected that. So if you're interested in the Moses, you've heard it, you love it, but you're like, I can't spring for that because of the price, you have got to hear the Noah from Hercules Audio. Again, at CanJam Shanghai, I think it's going to be one of the biggest stars of the show. It is a huge star with me already. This is the Forte Ears Mephisto. So this is the second IEM from Forte Ears. Their first one launched at CanJam SoCal 2024 with much fanfare. That was probably one of the most talked about new product launches at CanJam SoCal 2024.
Yeah, and it's still getting a lot of talk because that IEM actually went on to win one of the Water Cooler's 2024 IEMs of the Year awards.
It doesn't surprise me one bit.
Yeah, I mean,
I love the Forte Ears Macbeth. But anyways, so let's talk about the Mephisto. First of all, it's $2,899, which means it's substantially less expensive than the flagship Macbeth.
Yeah, still expensive, but not $4,000.
Correct. And let's talk about what's inside. 7-driver tri-bird IEM with two 7.8mm LCP dynamic drivers in a horizontally opposed configuration for the lows. LCP stands for liquid crystal polymer. There are 4 balanced armatures for the mids, 1 nano diaphragm planar named Aria for the tweeter, for the highs.
Yep.
Aria is a custom tweeter developed in-house. It's a custom-engineered nano diaphragm planar magnetic tweeter.
Yeah, which I think is pretty cool.
Yeah, and a nice treble extension, by the way. 4-way crossover they call FCR, Forte Circuitry Relay System. It's a type of 4-way crossover. 3D printed resin chassis with cast silver faceplate.
Yeah, it's a beautiful faceplate.
It is so beautiful.
Yes.
So, okay, I think the Macbeth faceplate is also gorgeous. Which one do you think? Which do you prefer?
They're both lovely. Mephisto wins, in my opinion.
I'm torn. I love them both. So this comes with a custom Eletech cable, 25 gauge, 4-wire configuration. Conductors, silver plated copper, and copper blend.
Yeah.
Now, did I mention the price, $28.99? The optional Temptation upgrade cable is $28.99.
Yep.
So same price as the IEM. It's a bespoke triple alloy configuration cable with gold, silver, and copper conductors. So this is the standard cable. So this, again, $28.99 with this cable, or you can spend $28.99 and get the Temptation upgrade in addition. All right. Comes with new Eletech Baroque stage ear tips.
Yeah, I haven't done a head-to-head to compare the listening impressions between the two, but I can tell you there is a size difference between the Baroque stage and the Baroque ear tips. So if you're a Baroque owner, when you're auditioning the Mephisto, definitely ask them about sizing because you might end up with a different size.
Yeah, so since the Eletech Baroque ear tip release, they've been my favorite ear tips overall. I use them more than any other right now. So I love that they come with it. They've solved so many fit problems for me with IEMs. So fantastic that they come with Baroques. All right, now the sound signature. It has a familial sound. When I hear it and I listen to the Macbeth, I can hear that they're relatives.
Yeah, of course.
But they're different.
Yes.
So this, I think, was optimized from a tuning standpoint for electronic and pop music.
Yeah, and that's something a lot of headfires listening to, myself included.
Yeah, me too. But I listen to a lot of other. I listen to, and this is good across all genres I've listened to it with.
Yeah.
And I find sometimes when you say things like that, it can be perceptually limiting. Like you'll think that, no, I've listened to it across all genres. I listen to just about everything. I don't listen to Two Van Throat singing. I don't much care for Two Van Throat singing. But I mean, if you do, great. But for all the genres I listen to, fantastic.
Yeah.
It's a mild U-shaped signature.
Yes.
So whereas the Macbeth can sometimes be on the bright side for me, but in a good way, like a sparkly bright. I described it as something that that when it does it, I like it.
Yes.
This doesn't do that. I find the treble to be smoother. I don't really hear that with these. The bass with these is more impactful in the mix. And so, again, a mild U-shaped signature. And it stages beautifully. The Macbeth also stages beautifully. I think some people who listen to the Mephisto and then listen to the Macbeth may prefer the Mephisto depending on their tastes.
Oh, I'm sure there will be some.
And though this is less expensive, I still consider this kind of a flagship class earphone.
Yeah.
So I think it's fantastic. So make sure to listen to both at Forte Ears exhibit. I think this is a beautiful addition to the family. Well, a family of one previously. But what a complementary pair of models to have to start with for first two models from Forte Ears. Fantastic, this Mephisto. Now, as CanJams go, CanJam SoCal 2024 was a big CanJam.
Right.
And so there were several key product launches at that show. But one of the most noteworthy product launches was, in my opinion, this IEM here, which is the Forte Ears Macbeth.
Yeah.
And the reason it was so noteworthy, it's a brand new IEM and a flagship class IEM, no less, from a brand new company. And it was met with immense enthusiasm by even the most serious IEM enthusiasts, the IEM cognoscenti, if you will. I'm looking at your face. Okay, I don't know if that's a word you'd use. Snobs. The IEM snobs. They loved the Macbeth, and I'm not surprised. And it's a company that, though new, it was started by a guy with a lot of experience in our industry, Ricardo Ye.
Yeah.
I've known him for a long time. He's been in the industry over 10 years. He worked with HIFIMAN, with Eletech. Anyway, so he has a lot of experience, and he brought it to bear with these. Let's talk about what they are. It's an 11-driver tribrid, 5 balanced armature drivers, 4 electrostatics, 2 bone conduction drivers that are mid-range bone conduction drivers, and a Diablo bass driver, which is an exclusive Sony and customized bass driver. 5-way crossover, 3D printed resin shell, rhodium-plated copper faceplate. Absolutely gorgeous.
Right.
By the way, we did a video. It's on our channel. It's also on HeadFi from Warren Peachy, where he reviews the Macbeth, talks about the background, the company. And I want to mention that not just because you should check out the video if you haven't already, but because on that video we showed the prototype faceplate.
Yeah.
It wasn't enameled yet.
Right.
Now it's enameled, and it is absolutely gorgeous. I also want to mention the cable. Comes with a 26-gauge, custom 26-gauge 4-wire cable from Eletech. So you're effectively getting a beautiful aftermarket grade cable from Eletech.
Right.
With the Macbeth. There's also an optional Ambition upgrade cable.
Right.
Aptly named because all I can do is, hope to hear it one day. It's $3,999, which if I didn't mention, that's the same price as this IEM, $3,999 USD. It's a 23-gauge, 8-wire design, gold-silver alloy, gold-plated silver, gold-plated copper. This is not the Ambition cable.
Right.
Bit too rich for my blood, maybe. Did I mention the Baroque ear tips, the Eletech Baroque ear tips? So it comes with Eletech Baroque ear tips, which are probably my favorite IEM ear tips of all time.
One of mine, too.
Yeah, they seem to solve every fit issue every time I use them. Leather carrying case, and again, $3,999 USD. Let's talk about how they sound.
Yes.
Are they within my range of neutrality? Yes, they are. What I love about these is they have so many characteristics of some of my favorite IEMs I've ever heard. So, for example, the bass sometimes reminds me of something like the Subtonic Storm.
Yep.
The mid-range, that was actually the first thing I noticed with it, probably was the mid-range reminded me of the Campfire CP622B. Probably not coincidental that they both use mid-range bone conduction drivers.
Yeah.
And the treble, it's like this IEM is psychic. It's at the up, let me explain. The treble's like at the upper range of my neutral range.
I can see that.
Definitely in the upper range of my neutral range, but only when I want it to be somehow. Yeah, I know. I can't explain it either. But there's something about its tuning where the treble, depending on what I'm listening to, comes in like almost exactly when I want it to.
Okay.
And I love the tonal balance of these.
Yeah.
And it images big, beautiful. Love this IEM. So at CanJam, you're looking for a flagship class IEM. Forte Ears Macbeth is an absolute can't miss. So this is the FiiO FX17. Before I get into the FiiO FX17, just before we started shooting this, Brian and I were talking about FiiO, the company,
right,
and how they've entered so many audio product categories.
Yeah, they have.
And whenever they get into a product category, they don't just like dip their toes in the water.
No, they're the kind of company to dive head first.
Head first. They get so serious about every category they're in.
Yep.
I think IEMs that's definitely one of the categories that they've just really pushed.
Oh, yeah.
The last couple of years, they've gotten very serious. So like the FA19, like we both love that IEM.
Yeah.
And they also have different kind of subcategories within that category, which is, hybrid, tribrid, all BA, all dynamic. Yeah.
Yep.
Anyway, this is a tribrid. This is a 13 driver tribrid, the FiiO FX17. One lithium magnesium alloy dynamic driver.
Mm-hmm.
Lithium magnesium alloy.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with it.
I'm not familiar with this material, but I am intrigued. I would like to see what this material is about. 4 custom Knowles mid-range BA drivers, 8 Sonian EST drivers for ultra clear high frequencies, 5-way frequency split, S-Turbo patented acoustic filter structure designed for optimal sound clarity, pure titanium metal housing that they use 5-axis CNC machining to make.
Yep, nicely machined.
Yeah, beautifully machined. Ergonomically designed with custom like fit. It
Right.
does remind me of a custom IEM,
Yeah,
but it is universal fit, to be clear. Stock cable, gold, silver, and copper hybrid with 3 replaceable plugs, 3.5 millimeter, 4.4 millimeter, and TC connectors for versatility.
Mhm.
That's another way they've gotten serious about their IEMs. I feel like the cables on their IEMs have gotten nicer and nicer,
Right.
and they're like premium aftermarket cables now in terms of the look, feel, and performance. So I love that they do that, and I think adds value to their products. And FiiO is known for strong value already.
Yes.
All right, let's talk about how the FX17 sounds. So we both love the FiiO FA19,
Mhm.
which is an all BA design
Right.
for its neutrality. This is not a neutral IEM.
Yeah.
This is a rich, romantic sounding IEM, probably more up my alley than yours.
It is. Yep.
But as rich sounding IEMs go,
Yeah, it's nicely implemented.
I think they're lovely.
Yeah.
So I think they're fun.
Mm-hmm.
And that rich tonality isn't just in the bass. It's not like just bass emphasis. There's some mid-band emphasis as well.
Right.
But I don't find them to be slow sounding. I think part of that is, number one, the control of the drivers and the
Yes.
resolution of the drivers, but also that there's some treble sparkle.
There is, and I
which
like that.
Yeah, I do too. With
Yeah.
a richer tonality, I like that. And in image as well. I was talking to an IEM engineer recently because I've noticed that I feel like IEMs generally are starting to image better,
Right.
more commonly.
Mm-hmm.
And so I asked, is that like by design or is it a happy accident? He said, no. At least we engineer them. I can't remember which company that was. And he was saying, no, we engineer them, with imaging in mind, that we work on that. So I'm guessing this was a deliberate thing with the FiiO FX17 too.
Yeah.
So for those shopping for IEMs at CanJam, this is an exciting entry. If what I described sound signature wise is something you'd be interested in, make sure to give the FiiO FX17 a listen at CanJam.
Now, NiceHCK, of course, is known for their line of IEMs, their line of earbuds, their accessories like, say, headphone cases, and they also make IEM cables. So I want to talk about a few of the IEM cables that we have here in the studio. Now, this is the NiceHCK Dragon Scale Pro. In the US, it's going to run you $129, so it's not going to break the bank. Let's take a look inside. Inside, it has 8N OCC, that's Ono Continuous Cast, foil hybrid conductors, and it's made with silver palladium alloy and self-developed copper alloy that NiceHCK created in-house. It has a nice yarn sleeving to it, which I always appreciate when a cable is sleeved just because it adds that extra level of comfort.
I just like the way it feels.
Yeah, that too. It has a balanced 4.4 millimeter plug, and that's a gold-plated OFC plug. And then your connectors are 2-pin standard connectors. It has, according to NiceHCK, they say it enhances the density of the 3 frequency ranges. Now, when I was thinking about what to grab for this pairing, I thought it's an affordable cable. Let's go for something affordable. NiceHCK has their NX8. And when you pop these two together, you get a really good combination that's not going to break the bank, and yet you get the full complete package. It's quite nice.
It's actually a nice pairing.
Yeah, it is. Now, you have the NiceHCK Dragon Scale 2 Limited. Now, these are limited to 500 units, so keep that in mind. And that's going to run you around $300. Inside is a liquid nitrogen cryogenic treated silver palladium alloy cable. And that's all housed within a silk wool blend sleeve, which is actually quite nice on the hand. It has a palladium-plated OFC 4.4 millimeter connection, and that has gold-plated OFC 2-pin connectors. Now, NiceHCK says that the Dragon Scale 2 Limited brings audiophiles a better and purer listening experience. So I thought, what's a really good pairing for that? I'm thinking the NiceHCK Himalaya.
Which is an excellent IEM, especially for its price.
It is, and that is a really good combination together, but keep in mind, it is limited to 500 units, so you have to kind of move quickly on that one. There's one more IEM cable that we have here on the table, and that is the AU King 2 or the Gold King. So the AU King 2 is a 7-in gold-plated OCC and 7-in silver-plated OCC conductor IEM. It has a light gold color designed to match visually with most IEMs. That's what NiceHCK says about it. And the color, it's very subtle. It will match, I think, a lot of different IEMs. It has a gold-plated OFC plug. It has 5-in silver-plated OCC 2-pin connectors. And they say that it offers delicate mid-frequencies. Now, when I was trying to figure out which IEM I want to try with this cable, I wasn't sure where to start, but then I also noticed that they said it offers a huge sound field. So I'm thinking high senior Mega 5 EST. Yeah, that's a good match.
It is a good match.
Yeah, it is. And if you're at CanJam and you're looking to try IEMs or cables with your favorite IEMs, definitely stop by the NiceHCK exhibit because they have a wide range of offerings in a price range that's not going to break many budgets, but you have so many to choose from. It's pretty much like a plethora of choice.
Yeah, and for the prices, the construction materials, everything they choose for them, fantastic values.
Yeah, they're a must stop at CanJam. This is the NiceHCK EBX25 Ti. It is an earbud and it is a flagship earbud. Now, the chassis is made from aircraft-grade titanium alloy. It's 5-axis CNC machined, and it has an open-back design, and inside that chassis is a 14.2 millimeter dome beryllium-plated diaphragm. Its cable is 6-in OCC silver-plated copper mixed, and MMCX detachable connectors are on the earphone side. You can choose between 3.5 millimeter or 4.4 millimeter for the termination. Now, unfortunately, for our listening impressions, these were a bit too large for us. They didn't quite fit, so we didn't really get any true listening time with them.
Yeah, it's not just that for me. Earbuds simply don't work in my ears because of the way they're shaped. And that's just always been that way. But I think for most normal human beings with normal ears, earbuds seem to work. I mean, AirPods, for example, are immensely popular, the regular AirPods.
Yeah, they work for so many people, just not usually us.
Yeah, just not us.
Now, I do want to get you a little bit of a taste of what you can expect from this. So from NiceHCK's information, they say that it delivers a natural, spacious sound signature with superior bass and high-quality performance. The bass is rich and profound, the mid-range vocals are nuanced, engaging, and sweet, and the treble is smooth and transparent. It offers high compatibility with various music styles, and they've even provided a measurement, so we'll go ahead and show that right now.
Yeah, so flagship class earbuds don't come along that often
or ever nowadays.
Yeah, and so make sure at CanJam not to miss the EBX25 Ti.
Yeah.
This is the NiceHCK NX8. It's $199 US. I'm going to say it. Of the $200 IEMs I can think of right now, this is definitely one of my favorites.
It's one of mine too now.
This is so good.
Yeah.
For the price, $199. Anyway, so this is an 8-driver tribrid. On each side, there's one 10-millimeter dynamic driver, 6 balanced armature drivers. The frequency breakdown of those wasn't given, so I'm not sure. One piezoelectric driver, I'm assuming for high frequencies.
Right.
Precision 3D printed resin cavity, aluminum alloy frame, starry texture faceplate.
Yeah, it's quite a nice look.
It is a nice look. They tend to go for elegant, like simple and elegant.
They do, yeah.
I like that. Replaceable acoustic tubes. Can you say something about that? Because we were talking about this a minute ago.
Yeah, so the replaceable acoustic tubes on these, you get 2 pair in the box, and basically they're identical. If anything happens, say one pair or one piece gets gunked up, you could just untwist, toss it, replace it very easily.
That's actually nice for them to include that.
Yeah, it is.
Gunked up. All right. Cable, high purity OCC silver plated mix, 2-pin connection on the ear side, 3.5 or 4.4 millimeter termination. All right. Your notes?
My notes are pretty simple, but it's because I was actually spending most of my time listening.
Yes.
So I find they have a balanced sound and a slight low-end elevation. All in all, I was surprised with the final voicing that these have, because when I read the description, I thought these probably going to be a little bassier than I was looking, and I very much enjoyed these.
I do too.
Yeah.
So this is another one of those IEMs or headphones that we agree on.
Yeah.
I agree with you. Actually, on this one, I find that the bass is somewhat mildly emphasized.
But it's nicely done.
Very nicely done. Nice bass control to me. It seems to have nice treble extension.
Yep.
Just an overall balanced sound. It's kind of a safe signature in a very good way.
Yeah, that's a word I thought of at the time too. Safe.
Yeah, safe enough. Apparently, we both like it.
Yeah.
So yeah, of the $199, the $200 IEMs I can think of, this is absolutely one of my favorites right now. So the NiceHCK NX8 at CanJam, you must hear. This is the AME Musa, now the flagship of AME's IEM lineup, taking over what were the 2 co-flagships, the AME Raven, which are still in the lineup, the AME Raven and the AME Gaia.
Right.
So the Musa, what a gorgeous IEM, first of all. So for some people, AME might be a bit of an enigma, a bit of a mystery. Like you've heard the name, but you don't know a lot about them.
Yeah.
That was the case for me, but a couple of CanJam Singapores ago, I had the privilege of meeting Jaegun Song from Korea. That's where they're based. What a groovy guy. Super hip musician, dude. He's a joy to talk to. Super passionate. And he let me hear a prototype of what would become the Musa. And it's a beautiful, just lush-sounding IEM. I'm going to get to that in a second. The Musa is a 15-driver hybrid, 13 balanced armature drivers, 2 bone conduction drivers. I don't usually focus so much on the design, like the outer part of it, but I have to here. So the case, they say that the shells, the world's first earphone shells and plates made using pure copper.
Mokumegane.
Thank you, Brian. He pronounces that stuff a lot better than I do. Mokumegane blocks. That's a Japanese metalworking procedure which produces a mixed metal laminate with distinctive layered patterns. Reminds me of like Damascus steel with the folded layers of steel.
Yeah, it does.
But in this case, you have like, distinct layers of different colored copper, and it's so beautiful. And then the faceplates look like ancient Greek coins.
They do.
Made of that Mokumegane stuff. So beautiful that way. In fact, I think the name Musa is Greek for muse.
I believe it is, yeah.
All right, Greek head fires. If I got that wrong, forgive me. But I think it is. I think Musa is Greek for muse. Now, they say of its sound signature, AME's special tuning for the Musa features deep bass, clear vocals, and a wide sense of space in all directions.
And I agree.
Thanks, AME. You did my homework for me because I agree. You agree.
Yeah.
My notes include the following: rich, lush bass, rich, lush tonal balance on the richer side of my preference range. Beautiful imaging. Okay. Definitely on the richer side of my preference range, which would mean it's definitely on the richer side of your preference range.
It is.
But beautiful sounding nevertheless. So it's also packaged like a flagship IEM.
Yeah.
It comes with this case, which looks like something that I would pay rather a lot for, right, as a specialty IEM case in the aftermarket. But it comes with that, which is beautiful. It's a 3-compartment case. Also comes with 9 pairs of tips: spin fit silicone tips, AME silicone tips, comply foam tips, and then with this beautiful Eletech cable, custom made for the Musa. It's an Eletech premium custom cable, 2-pin, of course, 4.4 millimeter termination. And again, it looks like and feels like an Eletech aftermarket cable. So if AME is a mystery to you, then you have to make sure at CanJam to demystify AME and just listen to the Musa and the rest of their lineup. This is the AME Raven, once the co-flagship of AME's IEM lineup, along with another model called the AME Gaia.
Right.
I've not heard the Gaia, have you?
Neither have I.
All right, so we must listen to the AME Gaia the moment we have a chance. But we have spent a lot of time with this, the AME Raven. And I say once the co-flagship of the lineup because a model that's newer came up, took over flagship status. It's called the AME Musa, and it casts a very big shadow. So I want to make sure to shed some light on the Raven because this, I'll say it, this to me is probably more in my wheelhouse than the Musa.
Yeah, mine too.
All right, I'll get to that in a minute. So it's a 12-driver hybrid, the Raven, 8 Sonian balanced armature drivers, 4 electrostatic drivers. And I say in my listening notes, more traditional sounding, more neutral to my ears than the lusher sounding Musa. I hear the Raven is slightly forward and has treble that's smooth, refined, and very detailed, very being emphasized, incisive.
Yeah.
And I mean that very positively. AME really gets tremendous treble detail from those ESTs.
Oh, yeah.
Just beautiful sounding. And it has a tastefully done, tastefully executed bass emphasis.
Right.
Without being at all, to me, overblown. So beautiful sounding IEM. More in my wheelhouse than the Musa.
Yeah.
I think there's going to be a subset of community members who are definitely going to prefer the Musa, who like that lusher sound signature. But I think this probably has wider appeal. So this is definitely a flagship worth catching at CanJam. Now, I also should mention that it's packaged like a flagship.
Yeah, it is.
Comes with some beautiful things like 9 pairs of tips, spin fit CP100, AME blue tip, and comply foam. And the cable's also gorgeous.
Yes.
It's called the AME Old and Wise cable.
Yeah.
I do love that name. It's platinum plus gold plus silver alloy. It's an 8-core design terminated in 4.4 millimeters. So the AME Raven, don't miss it in the shadow of the Musa. Make sure to find it.
So, Jude, what I'm holding right now, I think might be my favorite Unique Melody IEM in quite some time.
Yeah, I'm not surprised.
Yeah. This is the Unique Melody Mest Jet Black. They are doing some very interesting stuff on the inside. So let's take a look at the drivers because it is a 10-driver quadbrid IEM. It comes with a single dynamic for the lows, 2 balanced armatures for the mids, 2 balanced armatures for the highs, 2 ESTs for the ultra highs. And this is where it gets really interesting. 3 bone conduction drivers. Now, 2 of those are composite balanced armature bone conduction drivers, and one of them is a piezoelectric bone conduction driver. That is a very unusual arrangement, but it plays out so well in the sound signature.
Yeah, I would love to find out more about those bone conduction drivers.
Yeah. Something else interesting they're doing with these is they're going to set you back around $2,000 US with a cable, which in the US is not unusual. It's a, very common price point. However, as far as Unique Melody goes, their IEMs can get quite expensive. Some of them are $6,000, $7,000, $8,000 US. At $2,000, very budget friendly as far as their line goes, and you can also buy it without a cable. Save you a little more money. So that's $1,700 if you get it without a cable. Now, if you do choose to go with the cable, you have two options. You can either choose an Effect audio cable or a PW audio cable, both premium aftermarket brands, both excellent cables.
And same price for
both.
For both, okay.
Yep, $300 for the cable.
I like this approach.
I do. Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, maybe I just haven't been paying attention, but I don't know of anybody else doing it. I love that idea because a lot of IEM enthusiasts already have so many cables.
Yeah, they do.
And so they might not want to spring for the extra $300 for a cable. But if you don't have cables, or if you just want one of the two options, because let's face it, Effect Audio and PW Audio are a couple of the cable companies that a lot of IEM enthusiasts are buying cables from,
right?
And that are respected.
Yep.
Anyway, I think this is a neat approach.
Yeah. And like I said, it pays off so well in the sound. So for me, when you listen to these, I was pairing them originally with the Asla Sedna ear-fit tips. I love those tips so much. But it has fantastic vocal separation, vocal detail. The vocal presentation is just like it's singing to me. I love that. And as someone who listens to a lot of vocal music, it's, an excellent pairing. And then I also find that the bass and the lower mid-range is a bit forward. However, it's very well done. You're not going to find it as a bass or low mid heavy signature, but it is emphasized a bit. And I think that plays very well with everything going on. And I'm guessing some of that magic is probably due to those bone conduction drivers.
Yeah. I mean, at this stage, listening to what you're saying about it, I'm like sitting here nodding my head because that's how I feel about them as well.
Yeah.
You've described what I'm hearing. Yeah, these I really, really enjoy.
Yeah, they're fantastic. So if you can try Unique Melody at any CanJam, the Meste Jet Black is now a must here.
All right, I'm going to start this one off by saying Unique Melody and $800.
Yeah.
So we don't hear that very often together. That's absolutely one of the more affordable Unique Melody IEMs for sure. They don't usually play in this range. I think when we think of Unique Melody, we think of quite a bit more expensive.
Yes.
And more premium priced.
Mm-hmm.
This is the Unique Melody Stardust, and as I mentioned, it's like $800.
Yeah.
Let's talk about what it is. It's a 6-driver hybrid IEM, 1 dynamic for sub bass, 1 dynamic for bass, 2 BA drivers for mids, 2 BA drivers for highs. So in case you lost count, that's 2 dynamic drivers and 4 BAs per side.
Yep.
3D printed aerospace grade medical titanium shells.
It is a beautiful shell.
Okay, it was the shells that threw me off. I would not have expected these at $800 when I first held them because the shells are really cool.
Yeah, they are.
We love titanium.
Yes.
You know what they look like? They look like somebody took a slab of titanium ore out of the ground. I don't know where you find titanium ore. Anyway, they took it out of the ground, and then some guy started carving these shells because they look kind of raw.
Yeah.
I love the way they look.
I love rough titanium, yeah.
Yeah, we're partial to titanium.
Oh,
yeah. TuneWire custom cable. What can you tell me about those?
So the TuneWire custom cable, it's made with 5N long crystal high purity oxygen-free copper and 5N long crystal copper with silver plating, and it comes terminated in 2.5, 3.5, and 4.4 millimeter.
Thank you, because I didn't know a whole lot about that. All right, and again, they're $799 USD.
Yeah.
Here's what I'm going to say about the Unique Melody Stardust. I think a lot of people... Oh, let's talk about sound signature first. So the sound signature to me... you mentioned when we were talking about it that sometimes the mids seemed a little rich to you.
They can,
yeah, they can. But one thing that stood out to me was I feel like for the price range, they wanted to make sure that it was an articulate sounding IEM.
Yes. Yeah.
And I think they did actually a lovely job. I feel like they kind of gave it some extra energy in the presence region to give it a sense of articulation.
Right.
I actually really enjoy the overall balance. I think they've done, frankly... Okay, here's the thing. At CanJam, I think some people who are budget shopping for IEMs, like kind of staying in the reasonably priced range, might automatically skip Unique Melody.
Yeah, that's true.
And but don't, because here's an $800 option. While not inexpensive, is reasonably priced and gives you a reason to think about Unique Melody in that price range. I quite enjoy these.
So this is the Jomo Audio Serenity, and it was a bit of a surprise to us because, first of all, we didn't know it was coming. So when it arrived, we thought, oh, something new from Jomo Audio, that's very exciting. And then we got to hear it and thought, oh, hello. But I'll touch about that in a little bit here. I first want to talk about what's inside. So this is an 8-driver tribrid IEM, and it has 2 10mm DLC or diamond-like carbon diaphragm dynamic drivers for the lows and mids. It has 2 balanced armatures for the mid-highs, 2 balanced armatures for the highs, and then 2 6mm planar super tweeters for the ultra-highs. All of that is housed within a stabilized Arctic wood chassis that's CNC machined. And one of the things I love about when you work with wood, everything's unique. It's a beautiful finish, and they're all going to be individual.
Yes.
Love that. It also has on the faceplate here something that Jomo Audio is calling a Flomax open back faceplate grill inlay. And that's a gold-plated brass plate. It's very beautiful. And then Jomo Audio says The FlowMax open back faceplate grille, seamlessly inlaid into the design, not only enhances the aesthetic appeal, but also serves as an acoustic venting system, ensuring optimal airflow for a refined listening experience. And it's definitely refined. We'll get to, again, that in a second. But I do also want to mention real quick, starting with some of their more recent options, like the Nautilus, for example. We saw the Nautilus at CanJam SoCal 2024. Beautiful IEM. I thought they had really stepped up their design game.
I agree.
They're doing that again with the Serenity. It's a beautiful piece, and I'm very excited to see what they're doing with the aesthetic changes.
Yeah, the wood with the faceplate on that is just gorgeous.
Yeah. They've also paired it very nicely. So this has an Adrenaline Mark II 4-wire cable. That's a 26-gauge cable, OCC silver-plated copper, and it's terminated in 4.4 millimeter with 2-pin connectivity. Now, getting to the sound impressions, I was very, very surprised with this. So when I started listening to it, the very first thing I thought, this is very nice from the highs all the way through the mids. Very nicely done. It does have an emphasized low end. However, that low end is still clean and controlled. Very well maintained. I'm going to say it. This is probably one of the best Jomo audio pieces I've heard in quite some time. And I'm going to go so far as to say you've probably measured this, I'm guessing, on MDAX.
On MDAX, yeah.
It's probably scored quite well, is my guess. Just my estimation.
It did. You haven't seen the score yet.
Yeah.
So my listening notes, you went from the highs to the lows. I'm going to go from the lows to the highs.
I started with what's important.
Yeah, you like treble. Mildly emphasized bass, and I agree it's clean and controlled.
Yeah.
Some richness in the mids combined with good mid-range resolution, which I really enjoy.
Mm-hmm.
Articulate but smoother treble, no harshness.
Yeah.
A bit richer than pure neutral.
It is.
So I agree with you, and I've enjoyed these a lot. So I did measure it on MDAX, which is HEDD Acoustics multi-dimensional audio quality score metric, and we've done videos on it, so do check that out on our channel.
Yeah.
The mean opinion score timbre, which includes frequency response, spectral flux, and other things, 4.9 out of 5.
Not surprised.
Mean opinion score immersiveness, 4.5 out of 5.
Nice.
Its overall mean opinion score, MDAX score, was 4.8 out of 5.
Yeah.
So it scored very, very well, and I'm not surprised. You actually asked me to run it through MDAX thinking it would do well, and you were right, it did. Now, this beautiful aftermarket IEM cable I'm holding here is the Flash Acoustics Venom. So this is now the flagship of Flash Acoustics line. And Flash Acoustics is quickly becoming more popular in our community. It doesn't surprise me. The principles behind Flash Acoustics are extremely well regarded, fantastic reputation, even within the specific aftermarket cable community.
Right.
Now, the Venom, now the flagship, replaces, as the flagship, the Ultron.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the Ultron stays in the lineup, but this is now the flagship. Yeah. And the Ultron I'd been using for a while.
Yes.
Loved it so much, I ended up picking up the Thanos, which was under the Ultron. Been using those with some of my favorite IEMs. And now this. So in a previous preview video, we showed an exploded view of the Ultron.
Yeah.
Just to show how complex that design is, which you can actually see as you look at the cable in person.
Yes.
We don't have an exploded view of the Venom, but if you look at this Ultron exploded view, you can kind of see probably a very similar construction with this, with some improvements. So the Venom is a 21.7 gauge cable. On the positive conductor side, gold-plated silver gold alloy, palladium-plated silver gold alloy, silver gold platinum alloy, and 7N SCOCC copper.
That's a crazy amount of material.
There's a lot going on.
Yeah.
And then on the negative conductor side, palladium-plated 5N OCC silver and non-plated 5N OCC silver. This also, like I think the Ultron did, features Flash Acoustics X-Cross design.
Yeah.
And then this has a new feature, a new design with the Venom called AEC, or Anti-Electromagnetic Complex, designed to offer superior anti-static and interference-resistant properties. So I'm not sure exactly how that works, but again, there are some improvements. You can already tell if you've seen the Ultron, there are differences in materials and construction. So this I've been enjoying. This is one of my favorite IEMs right now. This is the Visioneers VE10. Just as I've been enjoying the Ultron and Thanos, I'm very much enjoying the performance with the VE10s. Wonderful upgrade.
Yeah.
If you're a cable enthusiast, if you love cable rolling, or you're just curious about it at CanJam, definitely do not miss the flagship Venom from Flash Acoustics. Now, the funny thing is when we got the iSlab Spectrumica, the very first time, we did a preview video after we got it, and the funny thing is we didn't know where in the lineup it was.
Yeah, it wasn't out yet, and there was no information online.
Yeah, they sent us no information. They sent us the in-ear. It was just like, listen to it, put it in the preview video. And so we guessed that it was their new flagship because we both preferred it to the Prismatica. And that's saying something because we both really like the iSlab Prismatica.
Yeah.
Now, let's talk about what this is first. It's an 8-driver IEM, 1 ceramic dynamic driver, 1 bone conduction driver, 4 balanced armature drivers, 2 electrostatic tweeters. I love what they're doing with those tweeters.
Yeah.
Aviation-grade aluminum housing. I mentioned that because the housing is beautifully finished. High-quality components, Elna audio capacitors, Japan-made metal film resistors. Something called P-Sync phase synchronization chamber, a precision CNC milled chamber that ensures airtightness, reduces resonances, and aligns air and bone conduction phases.
Right.
I don't know exactly the design or how that exactly works. I mentioned it for 2 reasons. One, ICE's CNC machining capabilities are kind of next level.
Yeah, they are.
His shop does just gorgeous work. And that might contribute, whatever that thing is, to the imaging.
Right.
Because I feel that these image better. They image very well, period, but they image better than even the Prismatica.
Yeah.
All right. It comes with 2 sets of tips. I only mention that because it comes with high-performance silicone tips. And then the other type, I need to mention the premium Eletech Baroque ear tips that it comes with.
Yeah, which we love.
Yeah, love those. Those are expensive ear tips.
Yeah.
And so that's quite a bonus to be packaged with them. All right. It also has something they call the mica cable. And it actually looks and feels like a couple of the flagship cables I use.
It does.
And the fixtures on it, remember we were just talking about the CNC machining capabilities. The fixtures are beautifully done.
Yep.
So those CNC machine fixtures are gorgeous. So now let's get to our listening notes. Let's start with you.
Okay. Well, I know you disagree, but I do make a small tweak to the default signature. I love what's going on in the upper end, and I love the mid-range on these, and I do take a little bit out of the bass. I think about 3 dB or so. However, once I do that, the detail that runs from the low end all the way to the high end, absolutely wonderful. Vocals are stellar. Really, with the small tweak, these are fantastic for me.
So I agree with you on almost all of that, but on the bass tweak you make, I disagree, homeboy.
Yeah, I know.
But anyways, yeah, no, I don't make that tweak. I take them as is and I love the way they sound. My notes say, when I hear the Spectrumica, it sounds like a relative of Prismatica. The bass is more impactful, but it's also very clean. Mids are rich too, but again, very clean. To my ears, the Spectrumica is richer in overall balance than the Prismatica. Now, I want to make sure that it's clear these don't have what I would describe as predominantly smooth characteristic. They're just smoother than the Prismatica.
Yeah.
Yet they're more resolving, and they image better than the Prismatica, which is why I think we guessed correctly that they were the flagship, because they are.
Yep.
They're $2,000 at that price point. I find them very competitive.
Yeah.
And so, to me, in the Western markets, I think they're still an emerging brand.
Yes.
I think with a couple of CanJams under their belt, they're not going to be little known in the Western markets anymore. And the Spectrumica, to me, at this price point, if you're shopping at that price point, then these are definitely IEMs you need to audition. This IEM cable is the Vortex Cables Nadia.
Right.
And the Vortex Cables Nadia takes over the flagship status from the previous flagship Vortex Lavinia. And the Lavinia, I believe, stays in the line.
Yes, it does.
But this is the flagship now, and it is part of the CFS series in the Vortex Cables family. Now, Vortex Cables is becoming increasingly popular. Some IEM manufacturers are even including Vortex Cables with their IEMs.
Yeah, we've seen a few of those, actually.
Yes, so they're becoming increasingly popular, but they're aftermarket cables. These are probably on the higher end of things, and this one is their new flagship, and as flagships go, it's relatively affordable.
Yeah.
$849. All right. So it is a 20.6 gauge cable. On the positive run, on the positive conductor side, it uses 4N OCC silver, that's Ono continuous cast silver, gold-plated 7N OCC copper, gold-plated 4N OCC silver, and gold-silver alloy. On the negative run, it uses 4N OCC silver and 7N OCC copper. Now they say, with Nadia, the design aims to integrate a wider range of material advantages by utilizing different materials and structural ratios for each polarity. This approach enhances the listening experience and spatial positioning, allowing for a more reasonable acoustic representation of each material's sound characteristics. I mean, that's a lot to say about these, but I will say that I have had lovely luck using these with any IEM that will accept them. And this has, because it comes with the Connex basic connectors on the ear side, so you can terminate it with any number of connections on the ear side for just about any IEMs that have interchangeable cables these days. And so for the IEMs I've used it with, what a beautiful cable.
Right.
And I think it's such a reasonably priced flagship cable in that market. And so this, for cable rollers in our community, headfires, when you go to CanJam, definitely bring your IEMs to try the Vortex Cables Nadia and the Lavinia. Actually compare those two. This was the first Rhapsodio IEM to come through HIFIMAN.
Yeah, it was.
This is the Rhapsodio Scarlet Beast, and I love that name. So tough.
Yeah.
Anyway, I dig the aesthetic too. I like the way that cable looks.
Yes.
I like the color of those earpieces, and I love the way the earpieces look kind of old school.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah. And I mean that in a very good way. So let's talk about what they are. The Rhapsodio Scarlet Beast is a 10-driver tribrid, one dynamic driver for the lows using something called an RSD square pen driver.
I don't know what that means.
Yeah, and I'm not sure what that kind of driver that is either. 4 balanced armatures for the mids, 4 balanced armatures for the highs, and 1 RSD square piezoelectric driver also for the highs. So I need to find out more about what these RSD square drivers are.
Yeah.
Now, the Scarlet Beast is priced at $4,099 USD, so around $4,100 US, which I would consider a premium priced IEM.
Right.
But within Rhapsodio's IEM lineup, it's actually not their most expensive IEM.
No, it's actually more towards the middle of the pack as far as pricing goes.
Right. But even though I would still say $4,100 is a premium priced IEM for most people.
Yep.
So if you're at CanJam and you're shopping for some premium priced IEMs, make sure to audition the Scarlet Beast. Now, in terms of its sound signature, I'd describe it as smooth.
Yes.
That's kind of one of its overriding characteristics to me. So for example, I am very sensitive to sibilance. So if an IEM or headphone spotlights or highlights sibilance, accentuates it, I'm almost immediately turned off.
Yeah.
The Scarlet Beast does not do that at all. It's smooth. So I would find its treble quite smooth. And one thing I really like about it is the bass. Because the bass, to me, it has really nice extension, but it doesn't sound accentuated at all to me. Does it to you?
No, not really.
I would almost say that its bass is perceived flat but impactful.
Yeah.
And then its mids are quite linear. So I would say that this is a smooth-sounding IEM, and if that's your tonality, that's what you generally look for, and you're shopping in that premium-priced range, the Rhapsodio Scarlet Beast is a can't-miss at CanJam.
Now, of course, that's not all of the brands bringing IEMs to CanJam Shanghai, not even close. Here are a few more that you won't want to miss during the show. Advanced Acoustic Works, often known as AAW, will be showing their family of IEMs, including the Z06 Universal IEM. Acoustic will be exhibiting their IEM lineup, and I've not yet tried their striking HS2000 MX Mark III IEM, and I bet that'll be a neat audition. Ear Acoustic Audio's STA Pro IEM will be on hand for you to try, as will EPZ's budget-friendly EPZ K1. If Gobs of Glorious Bass is your jam, be sure to check out Fat Freak's exhibit and make sure not to miss their flagship Grand Maestro. You'll find the Horizon Doom Basic at their CanJam Shanghai exhibit. And if you're looking to try IEMs from 7Hz, FiiO, Kiwi Ears, or Zigot, then Linsol's exhibit should be your first stop. The TH220 Plus is an IEM that's completely new to me, and if the same is true for you, discover it at the Mialo exhibit. OTG will have several brands on hand for you to try, and I strongly recommend checking out some of my favorite tips from ASLA alongside the Cost No Object Breeze Audio Fugaku flagship IEM system. Pinon will be bringing their Pinon brand of IEMs like the Fan 3, and they'll be showing those alongside popular Tansio Mirai IEMs like the X 10th Anniversary Edition. You may have already tried the Soft Ears RS10 and Cerberus at previous CanJams, but they'll have their Enigma IEM for you to audition. And we can't have wired IEMs without cables, so make sure to check out the entire selection of cables, including the Youngsa Titan 2, at their CanJam Shanghai 2025 exhibit. Well, that was certainly a lot of gear, and of course it wasn't everything that's going to be at CanJam Shanghai this year. Again, CanJam Shanghai 2025 is happening June 14th and 15th at the Shanghai Marriott Marquis City Center. Now, we didn't have time to cover everything that's going to be at CanJam Shanghai this year, so scrolling on your screen now is a list of all of the exhibitors and brands you'll find at CanJam Shanghai, just a couple of floors above my favorite John Bing. Thank you so much for watching all the way to the end. We can't wait to see you in Shanghai and on the forums at headfi.org.